Why do we spend hours and hours in traffic? In the past, car friendliness was the most important factor in urban planning. But an increase in population and affluence meant more and more cars and trucks invaded the roads. Should we really care? Apart from being a major contributor to global warming, road traffic has a dramatic impact on the health and well-being of us living in the WHO European region. Over 500,000 premature deaths annually can be attributed to air pollution. Road traffic injuries kill 85,000 people every year. It is the #1 cause of deaths among young people aged 5 to 29. Due to noise generated by road traffic, up to 50% of the region's population is exposed to harmful levels of noise, especially in urban areas. Physical inactivity is estimated to cost around 1 million lives each year. The costs of traffic congestion, pollution and accidents are estimated at €502 billion per year, and that is just in the European Union. And by 2050 an additional 1.2 billion cars are expected globally. So what can we do? City planning is driven by anticipated demand. If we continue to take our car for short trips, cities will continue to be planned accordingly. We can start by switching to comfortable and efficient public transport, and we should increase our use of bicycles or the latest breakthrough in eco-friendly transportation, our legs. Often it is even quicker. Every step improves our health. Every trip not made with a car results in less noise, less pollution. Tomorrow is in our hands. Be part of the change. Take the first step.
Ako ang bukas, tagapagtanggol ng kalikasan. Sisikapin kong panatilihin ang mga bagay na ginagawa ko sa kasalukuyan gaya ng hindi paggamit ng plastic, pagsali sa mga pangkalikasang aktibidad, pagsakay ng pampublikong transportasyon para hindi makadagdag sa pollution, pagtitipid ng kuryente at tubig at pagtatanim ng mga halaman. Ang mga pinaplano ko namang gawin sa susunod pang mga taon ay pagtangkilik sa lokal na produkto na nagmula sa sustainableng pinagmulan. Hindi ko hahayaang may masayang na pagkain sa pamamagitan ng tamang pag-iimbak lamang nito at pag-ubos, at makikilahok din ako sa mga kampanya na naglalayong itaas ang kamalayan ng mga tao patungkol sa kalikasan upang mapalaganap ang impormasyon sa nangyayari sa ngayon.
Tayo ang bukas. I am your Zoom host, Maribeth from Green Convergence. Welcome to our March Kamayan episode. We are currently live streaming on our GC official FB page. The program will begin with our Zoom etiquette, to be followed by an opening prayer and the Philippine National Anthem. Makakalikasang araw po!
Let us put ourselves in the presence of the Lord. Our Heavenly Father, we offer you our thanksgiving. We thank you for everyone gathered here today to walk with you. May we ask you for your blessings and guidance so that the activities set for this undertaking be successful. We ask you to open our eyes to see the wonderful things from this activity. We ask that you open our ears so that we may retain the invaluable knowledge. Open our minds for us to think wisely. Put us with understanding, cooperation, and peace in fulfilling our responsibilities. Open our hearts so that we may receive your everlasting love, and open our spirit so that we may know that you are with us all throughout the day. We ask all this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Bayang magiliw, perlas ng silanganan, alab ng puso, sa dibdib mo'y buhay. Lupang hinirang, duyan ka ng magiting, sa manlulupig, di ka pasisiid. Sa dagat at bundok, sa simoy at sa langit mong baghaw, may dilagang tula at awit sa paglayang minamahal. Ang kislap ng watawat mo'y tagumpay na nagniningning. Ang bituin at araw niya kailan pa may di magdidilim. Lupa ng araw ng walhati pagsinta, buhay ay langit sa piling mo. Aming ligaya na pag may mga api, ang mamatay ng dahil sa'yo.
Makakalikasan at masayang pagbati sa lahat. This is a very special day. Thank you for joining the 34th anniversary presentation, episode number 405 of the monthly Kamayan para sa Kalikasan, a public forum held every third Friday of the month. This is organized and brought to you by Green Convergence for Safe Food, Healthy Environment, and Sustainable Economy, or simply Green Convergence, or GC, and is co-organized this month by the Institute for Climate and Sustainable Cities, or ICSC. I'm your moderator, Marie Marciana, a founding member and former vice president of Green Convergence, and a lifetime environmental, human rights, and justice advocate. And now it's time to introduce our co-moderator, another longtime Earth defender. He's a content creator, the host of Boses ng Kalikasan, and is a member of the Board of Trustees of Green Convergence. Take it away, David D'Angelo.
Makakalikasang hapon po sa inyong lahat, mga kasama. Ma'am Marie, makakalikasang hapon sa iyo. Blooming na blooming, and I hope lahat kayo ay hindi pa masyadong naiinitan, although it's too hot in some parts of the Philippines already. Good afternoon.
Oh, that's it. I turned off my video kasi baka mawala na naman ako, pero let's see.
Today is a very exciting day because it's
I
the
know.
34th anniversary
That's
of the
why
Kamayan
I
Forum.
want to turn on my video. I'm so excited kasi
34th anniversary.
we have
Wow.
so many things in store, and I'm sure we'll have a very wonderful discussion.
Indeed, indeed, indeed. I remember, Marie, when I first joined Kamayan Forum, it was in 2009. No, back in the Kamayan restaurant, and met a lot of people, Ma'am Vicky, Roger Birosel, very active person, and a
Yeah,
lot of
yeah.
people there. I was very
2009,
young.
did you say?
2009. Yeah,
Wow.
2009.
That's, yeah. Di ba sabi ko kanina, so many of the people in the various environmental organizations and movements now were Kamayan babies,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
you, di ba? Oo.
Actually, Kamayan inspired me to be a full-fledged environmental advocate. Mga mentor ko yan, sina Ma'am Vicky, sina Dr. G. Kami yung pinambala sa JEPEPA, hindi ko makakalimutan yun.
Yeah,
Sabi nila,
yeah.
magwelga kayo, let's protest JEPEPA. Sige, punta
Okay.
kayo. Hindi na daw sila pwede, kami na lang. So, okay lang naman.
O sige. On that note, ha, since we're celebrating a significant moment in Kamayan Forum's history, allow me to go down memory lane to give you a few snapshots of its 34 years of life. The three founding fathers, as I like to call them, were journalists and broadcasters Vic Milan and Ed Aurelio or Ding Reyes, and restaurateur Vic Villavicencio of Triple V, the well-known group of Kamayan, Saisaki, and Dad's restaurants. All three were earth and nature lovers. Vic Milan and Vic were scuba divers rather, exposed to nature's beauty and bounty, while Ding, who was my younger brother, was, among many other things, an artist who drew inspiration and creativity from God's wonderful creation. In 1990, unhappy about the lack of attention and action on the worsening state of the environment, they hatched a plan to hold a monthly forum to educate journalists on pressing environmental issues in hopes that this would open up media space for such issues and attract public interest. Thus, in March 1990, Kamayan para sa Kalikasan was born, with a room full of journalists in attendance at Vic Vic's Kamayan restaurant on EDSA. It was held there regularly every third Friday of the month for more than 3 decades, except for one or two occasions of extreme flooding, and if I remember right, one Good Friday. We can't compete with that, of course. Free lunch was always provided, sponsored by the restaurant. The good news is it worked. Before long, articles on the environment slowly found more and more space in both broadcast and print media. Then, reporters took environmental beats. Naging uso na yung environmental beat. Green columnists sprouted, and news on the environment got on even on the front pages of major newspapers. Subsequently, the forum was opened up to the general public so it could reach more people directly. Students, teachers, various organizations, faith based groups, and would be environmentalists came to learn and discuss solutions to the planet's challenges. Organizations and shared campaigns came into being after some fruitful discussions. An example is the uh, Stop Aerial Spraying. I remember there was a national campaign and it started after a Kamayan forum on the issue. Alas, the founding fathers were all called home to God's bosom, one after the other. Quite early, I must say. When my brother Ding, who was the main forum organizer and was taken ill in 2012, he entrusted its sustainability and continuity to Green Convergence. And GC has, I'm proud to say, to this day, continued their legacy. Let us observe a moment of silence to honor, thank, and pray for Kamayan Forum's founders, Vic Milan, Ding Reyes, and Vic Villavicencio on this, its 34th anniversary. Thank you, and your legacy will live on. Okay, David, I think we may proceed.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, with that, we have a legacy that I hope would last for decades and even 100 years more. Hopefully, nandito tayo at mapagtagumpayan natin ang laban sa kalikasan. Ngayon, mga kaibigan, to officially start our forum for today, let me introduce to you the President of Green Convergence. Please welcome Ma'am Victoria M. Segovia.
First of all, congratulations to Kamayan, Green Convergence, and Marie for the 34th anniversary year of Kamayan. Our topic today is transition to clear energy for the transport sector. We all know that air pollution is a big problem in our country today, and much of that air pollutant comes from vehicles sources. A report says that air pollution coming from vehicles compose 85%, while it is around 60 in Metro Manila, while it is around 60 to 65% in the provinces. We have heard of programs to modernize the transport system, utilizing e-vehicles to help stem this pollution problem. But of course, I think you are all aware about the many problems that are accompanying this transition into clean energy vehicles. Today, I thank the ICSC for co-organizing this Kamayan session. I think I thank the experts for giving their time and knowledge to further enlighten our understanding about this important issue. So sit back, relax, and let us listen to them so that we can join in the advocacy for clean air and an efficient, convenient transport system so that people won't be encouraged to ride in their cars. For as Gustavo Petro, the former mayor of Bogota, quoted Francisco Venturini, the former chief executive officer of NL10, he said, a developed country is not a place where the poor own cars, but where the rich use public in quotation in in quotation marks electric transportation. So let us listen today and learn more about this very important issue that is really affecting our environment for today. Thank you, everyone. Welcome and good afternoon.
Thank you, Vicky. Before we present our first speaker, allow me to give you a brief rundown of the simple program flow. The forum has two major parts. Part 1 consists of the speakers' presentations to be given without Q&A interruptions. And part 2 is the open forum where you can then address your questions to any of the resource speakers who will directly answer them. Questions will not be entertained during part 1. Therefore, it is suggested that you note down your questions so that you won't forget. That's all. Thank you. David, you have something to add?
Yes, of course, ladies and gentlemen, of course, we have a very brief guidelines for participants to follow. So to avoid distracting ambient noise, all participants are requested to keep your microphone on mute for the duration of the webinar, except during the open forum when participants are welcome to speak and ask questions. Meantime, you may use the chat box for comments, reactions, or messages because later on, you will have all the time to answer, of course, within the time limit. So let's begin the forum for today. Marie?
Thank you, David. Moving on, may I now call on a good friend and colleague who is the partnership and advocacy advisor of our co-organizer, the Institute for Climate and Sustainable Cities, or ICSC, to do the honors of introducing our resource speaker. Yes, Francis de la Cruz. Hi, Francis.
Hello, Marie. Magandang hapon, David. Magandang hapon po, Ma'am Vicky, at
Magandang
lahat
hapon po.
ng mga kasama sa Green Convergence. Maraming salamat po sa pagpapaunlak. Thank you, Green Convergence, for allowing us to be part of for the privilege of being part of the 34th anniversary at itong Kamayan for March. So thank you very much. Well, I don't want to take too much time, but let me just say, let's introduce ICSC for a minute. ICSC is it's a non-government organization. We're a policy group. We work on energy. We work on climate policy. We also work on urban development. And that's why we are, involved in discussions or conversations on the transport sector, which is an important part of development planning. We also engage internationally on climate finance, climate policy, etc. Check nyo na lang po icsc.ngo. I think my role here really is to, maybe give a little bit of background, why, like the focus for today's discussion. I mean, it is on the transport sector, and as Ma'am Vicky said earlier, uh, we will be focusing on the pollution that's coming from the transport sector, which is quite huge, and maybe during the discussions, look at what can be done by people like us, so that we can assure better air quality, not just for us, but more so for the next generation. Incidentally, I mean, the reason why I reached out to Green Convergence is also to highlight the fact that it's the 25th anniversary of the Clean Air Act. So the Kamayan Forum predated the Clean Air Act by a good 10 years. The Kamayan started in 1990. Sustainable development conversation started in 1992. With the Rio conference. I started my NGO life in 1993. So nasimulan ko talaga yung usapan on sustainable development. And I was part of some Kamayan sessions in the 90s. Yung nakasama ko pa si Ding, si Sir Vic Milan. So I think I just betrayed my age there, but it's okay because I'm working with a lot of young people on this issue, and it is my honor to introduce our speaker. Shall I do it now, Marie?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, this is a very young fellow. I think he is maybe about the same age as the Clean Air Act, and younger than younger than Kamayan
I
Forum.
knew it. That's what I said.
Well, our speaker is Vince Carlo Garcia. He's an environmental engineer working as a battery scientist for a battery startup and a research consultant working on policy guidelines for the rollout of light electric mobility devices. He's also currently a student at the National Tsinghua University under the International PhD program on Environmental Science and Technology, and has since researched the potential of different materials for carbon dioxide utilization and energy storage. Over the last decade, he has won the hat of an academic environmental engineer and consultant, where he supported a wide variety of technical and policy research projects in developing countries, specifically Bangladesh and the Philippines. Throughout the process, he has worked closely with local and national government agencies, non-government organizations, legislators, academics, and the private sector to address the environmental issues such as water pollution, solid waste disposal, plastics pollution, coal-fired power plant emissions, and air pollution and GHG emissions. I think his curriculum vitae, sounds like he's much older than
Yeah.
you know than he actually is. But yeah, I worked with Vince when he did a research for the Institute for Climate and Sustainable Cities, specifically on air pollution. So without much further ado, I give you Engineer Vince Carlo Garcia. Vince, please take over.
Yeah.
Hi. Good afternoon po everyone. Thank you so much for inviting me into the 34th anniversary of the Kamayan Forum po. And thank you also for the organizers from Green Convergence. So let me just share my slides po. Thank you, Sir Francis, for the introduction. Thank you po. Thank you so much po ulit. I'm Vince Garcia. I was a former researcher for ICSC, and together with Sir Francis po and many other people, we were able to benchmark the Philippine Clean Air Act last, I believe it was 2021. So I'm here to talk about po, changes in Philippine air quality. So let's start po. So here is my outline po. So first, I will discuss the current air pollution situation in the Philippines, and after that, the air pollution causes and some solutions na pwede nating gawin or pwede nating i-advocate para ma-achieve natin yung uh, just transition sa transport sector at saka yung co-benefit na magkaroon ng less air pollution sa Pilipinas. So first po, yung present ko po ngayon is mainly the results of our benchmarking study na ginawa po sa ICSC. So in that study po, we compared uh, the different standards of the ambient air quality guidelines, ambient air standards of different countries with the Philippines po. And then together with another organization, nag-assess din po sila ng attributable deaths due to air pollution. Since dito po sa sa pag-uusap natin, katulad po ng sa introduction kanina, alam naman po natin na yung mga effects po, different effects of air pollution. Tas ang mahalaga po ngayon is paano natin yun, paano natin siya maiiwasan, paano natin siya pabababaan. So according to several studies po, yung air pollution po in the Philippines causes around 32,000 to 66,000 premature deaths dahil po yun sa air pollution. So kaya po may ganyang kalaking wide difference po is iba-iba po yung methodologies na ginagamit para i-model yung relationship between air pollution and premature deaths. Pero kahit ano pa muna po yung methodology na yan, no, it's still in the tens of thousands every year. And it's equivalent to every single Filipino smoking a cigarette a day. So kahit hindi ka naninigarilyo, pag expose ka sa air pollution, on average sa Pilipinas, para ka na rin nanigarilyo ng isang stick every day. So here po sa table, makikita po natin is yung mga ambient air quality standards po. So meron sa Pilipinas and meron din po sa World Health Organization, which was updated last 2021. So makikita po natin dito iba't iba pong pollutants. So ito po yung fine particles, PM2.5, forest particles, PM10, ozone, NO2, and SO2 po. So makikita natin dito na yung sa Philippine standards in general, or not really in general, parang lahat ng Philippine standards is mas less stringent. Kasi ang gusto natin is yung standard natin mas mababa yung number. Ibig sabihin mas konti yung pollution na dapat nasa hangin. So for example, yung fine particles, fine particulates, PM2.5, ito po yung mga maliliit na particles na galing sa mga usok na nakakapasok po hanggang mga baga natin. 35 po yung current standard sa Pilipinas, pero yung prescribed po ng WHO is 15. Ayun po. So sa atin, parang twice as high, yung parang okay lang na air quality. Ayun. So kaya dito na mapapansin po natin ang EMB po, nagme-measure din po kasi talaga sila ng ambient air quality. And makikita natin doon na yung mga annual values, for example, yung sa coarse particles na PM10, meron ang Philippine standard is currently 60 and sa WHO po is 15. Pero yung sa Pilipinas, more or less yung annual natin is less than 60 naman palagi. Pero at the same time, despite that, ang prescribed nga ng WHO is 15. So ibig sabihin, may effect pa din yung ganun klaseng air pollution sa atin. Ayun po. So yun po, yung comparison po ito ng standards. So yung discuss ko po dito is more on ambient air quality. So ito po yung um, quality ng air na hinihinga natin sa araw-araw, sa paligid natin. Tapos may isa po pong klaseng standards at yun naman po is yung sa emission standards. So ito po yung standards para sa mga tambucho po or sa mga stock po ng mga planta. Yun po yung directly minimeasure dun sa butas po ng mga tambucho kung saan lumalabas yung usok. So mag-flash lang po ako dito ng isang slide regarding that na in particular po isa coal-fired power plant. So makikita lang po natin kung bakit kahit ang discussion po natin ngayon dito is about transport, ay may important din, kahilera din po nito is yung energy transition naman sa power sector din po. So ito po. So ang pinapakita po dito ng table natin ngayon is yung emission standards or yung kung gaano dapat kalinis or hanggang saan lang dapat na level ang ibubuga ng mga coal-fired power plant. And from our analysis po, dun sa research namin dati, yung Pilipinas po is isa po sa mga most lenient na emission standards for coal-fired power plant sa Southeast Asia po. So ayun po, yung mga numbers ito medyo madaming numbers pero yung sinasabi po niyan sa atin talaga basically ay yung standards natin is medyo lenient talaga. Ibig sabihin nag-allow tayo ng medyo mas maduming usok na lumabas sa mga planta po, ay sa mga coal-fired power plants. Yun po. So ito po yun po yung discussion ng ambient air quality guidelines at saka emission standards. So next po, yan. So dito po sa slide na to, ang pinapakita po dito is yung air pollution inventory sa Pilipinas po noong 2018. So ito po mga figures dito is galing po siya, publicly available po siya sa EMD website. So doon po yung EMD po, nagka-categorize po siya ng iba't ibang klaseng sources of air pollution. So meron pong mobile sources, ito po yung mga sasakyan, basically lahat ng gumagalaw mga sasakyan, pwede sa kalsada or pwedeng sa mga truck, mga cars, mga buses, mga jeeps, lahat po ng gumagalaw na nagbubuga ng usok. And meron din pong stationary, ito po yung mga facilities like power plants, mga pabrika po na nag-release po ng usok. So stationary po sila. And then we have area sources. So these are yung mga emissions po coming from mga kabahayan or mga maliliit na sources ng air pollution na ina-aggregate mo sa isang area lang. For example, sa isang urban area or sa isang subdivision, yung area source siya ng air pollution. Sa latest na inventory po na available sa amin noon, noong 2018, meron daw pong 19 million tons of air pollution na na-release para doon sa buong taon na yon. And majority po doon is from mobile sources. So makikita po natin ito, so almost 74% comes from mobile sources. Yun po. And yung EMBD po, naglalabas din po siya ng data per region kasi may iba't iba po, may kada region po nag-conduct ng sarili-sarili nilang air pollution inventory. And makikita natin na per region, iba-iba po yung dami ng air pollution iba-iba po yung dami ng air pollution sa bawat klaseng source. So for example po sa Metro Manila, since dito medyo madami talaga yung mga sasakyan, 81% ay galing sa mobile sources. Okay po, so yung sa Pilipinas, 74% ay galing mobile sources. Pero pag nag-zoom in ka pa po sa Metro Manila, since medyo malaki yung concentration of cars dito, pumapalo ng 81% ang contribution ng mobile source air pollution. So bakit kaya ganun kalaki yung contribution ng mobile source air pollution? So dito makikita po natin sa slide na to is yung yearly increase sa motor vehicle registrations sa Pilipinas po. So mapapansin po natin from 2010 around almost mga 6.6 million vehicles yung nasa kalsada ng Pilipinas, yung mga registered. And then nung 2019, umabot na siya ng 12.5 million na registered na vehicles. Of course, nung sa 2020 po, nagkaroon lang pagbaba sa registration dahil na rin po yun sa pandemic. So ang nakalagay po na graph dito is from 2010 to 2020. And kanina po, chinek ko lang din po, yung sa January, as of January 2023, ang registration po ng total number of vehicle registrations ay nasa 13.9 million vehicles na po. So nakikita natin year on year, tumataas po talaga yung dami ng sasakyan sa kalsada. Ayan. So, in relation pa rin po sa air pollution inventory sa Pilipinas, pinakita ko lang din po dito na ito galing lang din po sa EMBA publicly available data lang din po. Kasi every 3 years po, meron po dapat na nangyayaring inventory, air pollution inventory. So, meron po silang na-record ng 2002, 2006, 2009, 2012, 2015, at 2018. And then, dito po makikita natin kung ilang tonelada ng air pollution yung nare-release sa Pilipinas. So for example po, dito sa data nila, noong 2002, 4 million. And then 2018 is 40 million from mobile sources. So makikita natin mga around 3.5 times po siya nung value. So maiisip natin na dahil nga din yun sa padami na mga sasakyan sa kalsada. Ayun po. So, hindi ko lang dito pinakita po yung data for area sources at saka sa stationary sources na more or less, although may increase din po napansin doon, pero hindi kasing grabe na increase sa mobile sources po. Air pollution from mobile sources. So, given na ganun po yung sitwasyon natin ngayon sa Philippines, ng air pollution sa Philippines, primarily at nalaman natin na ito ay primarily nagmumula sa mobile sources or sa mga sasakyan po natin. Ano po yung isang mga recommendations na pwede nating mahugot from that? So first po is, una kasi, kailangan nating i-align muna din yung air quality standards natin sa Pilipinas para magkaroon naman tayo ng maging alerto tayo kung na ano yung level ng air pollution sa Pilipinas. Kasi so far, isa din naman sa isa sa mga pinagkukunan natin ng na motivation ko ba't natin gusto ng mas malinis na hangin is kung pumapasa ba tayo sa standards natin o hindi, ganun. Pero yung pag-set po ng standards dapat is mas maging para po siya sa mas malinis na hangin. So ibig sabihin mas mababang air pollution na standards is better po. I mean, pag sinabi pong mas magandang standard is mas mababang level of air pollution. So, yun po yung isa or magkaroon po ng strategy of paano natin ma-attain yung prescribed po ng WHO. And then dito din po, and emission standards po sa iba't ibang mga planta and sa mga coal-fired power plants is a start po. Since yung sa coal-fired power plants po is matagal na din po, mga 25 years na pong hindi din napapalitan yung standards for that. And then if we're talking about electrification po, energy transition po sa transport sector, syempre kung saan natin sinasaksak yung mga electric mobility device natin, dapat more or less low carbon din po yung energy source na pinagagalingan nila. And then next po, ayun po, so yun, kailangan magkaroon din po tayo ng mas robust na air quality monitoring, mas maraming sites. Kasi so far po, latest ko po nakita sa EMB website is 128 monitoring stations. And fortunately po yun, nung tumas na po siya compared nung 2021 na ginawa yung report, which was Noong 2021 is ano lang siya, around 108. So nadagdagan ng mga more than 10 po na monitoring stations. So, yun, good, ano po yun, magandang development po yun, although kailangan pa rin po natin na magkaroon ng plan para padamin pa sila and para mas makover natin yung mas maraming tao and mas ma-inform sila sa status ng kanilang air na hinihinga. And also, dapat, yun, katulad na po ng sinabi natin, yung information talaga is important para maging aware yung mga tao sa issues ng air pollution and mas maging ano sila maging open uh, to new ideas. Yes po. And next po is since uh, mobile sources po talaga yung pinakamalaki na chunk ng air pollution, source ng air pollution. Ang maganda pong pagtuunan ng pansin bukod po sa pagiging electric ng mga sasakyan is i-improve talaga yung public transportation system natin. So hindi lang siya sa mga electric vehicle na mga cars, sa mga private vehicles, kundi yung system natin is mas pagandahin po natin. So magagawa po ito through proper planning ng mga ruta, pag-build po ng infrastructure. Ngayon po. Kasi pag hindi natin na-plan ito, kung mas maraming tao pa rin ang kung hindi mo ma-encourage yung mga taong gumamit ng public transport, ang mangyayari niyan is mapipilitan silang bumili ng mga sasakyan na dadami lalim mga sasakyan sa kalsada, sisikip yung kalsada, magkakaroon ng traffic, which is cost din para mas mag-init pa ng air pollutants. So, definitely, pag in-improve po yung public transport natin, magdi-decrease din po yung ang view po doon is magdi-decrease din yung air pollution because of that. Because may kakaroon po ng replacement doon sa mga private vehicles. Kasi yung mga tao, nilipat na sa public transport. And also yun, infrastructure that support active mobility po. So mga bike lanes, covered walkways, yun, isa rin po siyang paraan talaga para iwan ng mga tao yung mga sakyan nila sa bahay nila. Ayun po, tulad po ng sabi ko kanina, yung tighter standards din po para dun sa mga iba't ibang power plants is better din po for air quality. Since dapat, kunyari, electrify natin yung mga fleets natin, ang mas maganda sana if yung electricity na ginagamit natin para paandarin yung mga sakyan na yon ay galing sa mga renewable energy sources para ma-maximize natin yung impact ng interventions natin sa transport sector. So, ayun lang po on my end po. So, thank you so much po.
Thank you so much. Napakagandang discussion and I hope na mamaya later on may mga tanong yung ating mga kasama. Pero parang may quick question lang to galing kay Dr. Ano daw yung meaning nung MC at saka TC? Yan.
Sorry po, hindi ko po na-discuss yung MC, motorcycle at saka tricycle po. So makikita natin na siya yung pinakamadami talaga na na bulk dyan sa ng mga registered vehicles. And alam natin yung mga MC at saka tricycle, yun yung medyo hindi ganun ka-efficient sa pag-burn ng mga ng gasolina nila. So malaki yung impact nila po.
Yun. Thank you, Vince, for that very informative discussion. Marie?
Yeah, wait.
May
Medyo
internet.
nag-a-adjust ako kasi I have to turn off my video so that because my my internet is is very unstable. Thank you. Thank you very much, Vince. You are really amazing
Nalaman natin yung abbreviation na yan. MC at TC. Yan.
for such a young man, huh? Vince is so amazing. Our next speaker is Dr. Raymond Paulo Abad. He leads the Sustainable Transport Program of Clean Air Asia. He supports the management, implementation, and coordination of projects of Clean Air Asia and provides required technical and administrative support to guide specialists and researchers to effectively implement projects. His work focuses on the areas of clean fuels and vehicles, fuel economy, low emission urban development, active transportation, green freight and logistics, and electric mobility. Raymond was a DOSTERDT, Department of Science and Technology, Engineering, Research and Development for Technology. Wow. Habano na. Scholar for his master's and doctor's degrees in civil engineering from the De La Salle University and received additional training from the Transport Studies Unit of the University of Oxford, UK in 2017 as part of the Sustainable Cities and Resilient Transport Project. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Raymond Paulo Abad. Hi, Raymond.
Hi, good afternoon po. Good afternoon po sa lahat. And thank you very much po for inviting me to this forum. And it's really exciting din po to share our work po sa Clean Air Asia and how we can contribute din po, how we contribute in ensuring that we have cleaner air and a better environment for all. So so again, no, my name po is Raymond. I'm the Sustainable Transport Lead of Cleaner Asia. And my presentation this afternoon po would be about the transport sector and clean air. And marami na rin nabanggit si Vince regarding the transport sector and how sustainable transport interventions can support our efforts towards a cleaner air and environment in the Philippines. So briefly lang po, no, I'll just introduce our organization, yung yung Clean Air Asia. So we lead the mission for better air quality and healthier, more livable cities in Asia. And we have four main focus areas, yung thematic areas that we work on. And ito rin yung teams that also work within the organization. So we have air quality and climate change, sustainable transport, sustainable cities, and clean energy. And we work in different ways, pero we usually have three main pillars. We provide knowledge products, we raise awareness, and we also conduct data gathering and analysis to inform action and to guide yung decision makers natin to create data-driven decisions. So very important, and especially in the context of sa environment natin. We also conduct trainings and workshops, and we also provide some policy guidance as well for science-based decision making. And all of these activities are essential in our work, especially for sustainable transport. So, itong picture na to, this was taken last Feb 9. So, medyo blurred lang yung kalahating portion. But this is the view that we have from our offices sa Ortigas. We're at the 35th floor, and ever since we have quote-unquote returned to normal, parang ito na yung common scene, no? We have this brown layer of haze covering the skyline of Metro Manila. So it's worrying because dun din natin nakikita yung parang nagiging impacts, parang ano na yung nagiging condition ng quality ng air natin. And why is this important? No? Vince already mentioned that some of the impacts of poor air quality and air pollution is yung additional deaths worldwide. So mas marami na yung naapektuhan because of poor air quality. And what's more unfortunate here is that those that are more affected are the vulnerable groups natin. Yung mga babies and those that are in their early and late neonatal groups, and even those that are older age groups. So yung mga vulnerable population. And even those who are pregnant as well. So because some of yung mga chemicals na nakukuha na nai-inhale o pasok minsan yan sa bloodstream. No? So ayun din yung mga harmful effects niya. Now, of course, while there are harmful effects, meron din benefits of improved air quality. So basically, yung kabaliktaran lang nung mga na-discuss natin kanina. So kung nabanggit natin yung cardiovascular mga diseases because of air pollution, so kabaliktaran naman, no? It reduces the risk of it. And of course, for the environment, we have improved visibility, forest and crop yields, water quality, and habitat. So we don't need to imagine hard, no, kung effective ba kung magkaroon ng air quality benefit yung pag-i-address natin to. No? Balikan lang natin, no? 4 years ago, kumbaga masaya tayo na kitang-kita natin yung Antipolo, kitang-kita natin yung Bataan from because mas malinis mas maganda yung air quality nun. So, yun na talaga yung isa sa mga pinakamagandang evidence, no? And something that we should aspire towards. And Vince already mentioned na kaya ganun yung case kasi nga 74% of emissions are coming from mobile sources. And malaki dito, most if not all, comes from the transport sector. And that's what we do at Clean Air Asia. No? We try to provide policymakers, inform them about yung emissions and yung air quality. But let's try to contextualize also ano ba yung sinasabi nating emissions at yung air quality. So yung emissions, ito yung mga substances na nasusukat natin, no? Directly emitted from the tailpipe of the vehicles. So lahat ng mga may sasakyan dito, we do this yearly as part of our registration. No? Meron tayo emissions testing. So pinapasok yung pinapasok na parang tubo, tapos may measure yung emissions coming from the tailpipes. So meron mga requirements yan na kailangan natin ma-meet, no? As mandated by the government. And we also have some air quality or pollutant concentrations wherein we measure the level of pollutants in the air in an area. So ito yung mga mini-measure natin, yung nakikita natin sa website ng DENR. So yung mga current air quality sa mga lugar. So yung emissions then from the vehicles, yung vehicle emissions natin, also contribute to the deterioration of air quality and yung pollutant concentrations natin. So that's why we have to look at sustainable ways on how the transport sector could reduce its emissions. And I think one of the best exercises para ma-imagine natin kung ano ba dapat natin gawin is by addressing this general question. No? Let's think of this transport environment issue as something close to us. No? Ano yung gagawin natin kapag tumataba na tayo or if your tummy starts to get bigger? So, in real life, meron tayong mga choices, no? So, pwedeng bumili tayo ng mas malaking mga damit. We avoid unnecessary eating, yung mga wala sa oras pero kain lang ng kain. We shift to eating healthier foods. So, instead of junk foods, so we eat healthier foods. And we improve your lifestyle. No? So I guess the 3 items that you will see here, yung avoid, shift, and improve. Kumbaga ito yung logical, no? Pero we know that these things or we know that these actions are the more difficult actions, no? Compared to just buying bigger clothes and just accepting the issue. No? But if you want something that is sustainable, itong choices na nasa baba. So pareho lang yan yung exercise natin, no? Sa sustainable transport, yung choices na kailangan natin gawin is also similar. If you want to make transport or transport to be more sustainable, we can avoid or reduce travel using yung motorized, no? So pag umiwas tayo sa paggamit ng mga sasakyan, diba? Kung hindi naman talaga kailangan or mas makakabawas yung sa emissions. yung shift naman, no, if we shift to more energy efficient transport modes, ano yung mga public transport, diba? Or non-motorized transport, maglakad, mga ganyan. So, pwedeng ganun. Pwede rin improving lifestyle, no? So, this one, we look at our vehicles. How do we improve yung energy efficiency ng mga sasakyan natin? So, pwedeng yung mismong sasakyan, yung technology niya, or yung paggamit ng sasakyan. So, ganun din yung titignan natin, no? Ano yung equivalent nung buy bigger clothes, no? So, parang, iyon, para it's really unsustainable kasi parang we're not addressing yung main issues natin sa transport, diba? So, ito yung diagram niya, no? And meron dito, here, you have a lot of interventions, no? But the overall goal of this is to reduce energy consumption, transport emissions, and road congestion. What this diagram shows us is that there is no singular method or singular intervention that will work or solve all the problems related to the transport sector. Okay, so I just want to lay that down as early as now, no? Kumbaga, hindi masusolusyonan ng isang intervention dito lahat ng problema sa transport. No? Part lang yan. And mas maganda na we look at this suite of alternatives or yung interventions, and we try to implement these policies together and mag-complement siya. Okay? So paano natin mapapakita yun? So here are some examples, no? Or bakit, no? Or bakit din natin kailangan i-target yung transport. So there are studies already, no? For example, yung World Bank study or Philippine Country Climate and Development Report. So yung estimates natin, no, for land transport, nakita natin every year dumadagdag. Every year or every quarter meron tayo nakikitang mga new number of vehicles na nabenta, tumaas yung sales compared to last year. So that's the chart on the left. So ang sinasabi dito, no, habang tumataas na tumataas yan, yung mga bilang ng sasakyan na yan, mas tumataas din yung emissions natin. So ganun yung parang parallels na kailangan natin ma-establish at the onset, no? If you want to address emissions from the transport sector, kailangan natin tingnan ano yung sources na yun. And those are yung land vehicles, yung road transport vehicles natin. Okay? So, ano yung mga different policies and programs that are already placed in place that is relevant to urban mobility and climate change. So, as 1997 pa lang, meron ng Clean Air Act. And isa sa mga requirements na may better quality fuel, yung mga standards na yan. And if kailangan siya i-revise. Ano yung mga outcomes or ano yung mga naging outcomes as a result of the Clean Air Act? So, in 2015, na-mandate na yung mas stricter or stringent emission standards sa mga sasakyan, yung mga Euro 4 na sasakyan. So we may have heard of this from time to time because of the PUVMP, yung modernization program, di ba, ni-require yung mga public transport na maging Euro 4. Pero before that, na-require na rin yung mga private na vehicles, yung nasa market natin, yung mga binibenta, to be compliant to Euro 4 as well. And part ito dun sa mga kinocommit or kinocommunicate ng Pilipinas doon sa nationally determined contribution sila. So parang nakalagay doon kung ano yung mga aksyon na gagawin ng pamahalaan upang ma-address itong suliranin nga na ito sa transportasyon. So, pag-usapan natin yung mga different interventions, no? So, first one is yung avoid. Ito yung telecommuting, no? Or locally known as work from home or yung mga hybrid setup. So, telecommuting yung parang technical term niya. So, yung research ng telecommuting, part siya ng, yung telecommuting part siya of the avoid interventions. And it has shown some positive effects. It can alleviate network congestion and has a potential to reduce GHG and PM2.5 emissions. So, classic example, March 2020, ayan yung nangyari, no? Lahat naka-work from home, merong school from home din. So, anong nangyari? luminis ang air, yung gumanda yung air quality, no? Kasi wala lumalabas, lahat nasa bahay. So, ganun din yung idea ng telecommuting. So, you just imagine yung pagbawas ng demand sa mga sasakyan para lumabas. So, yun yung naging impact niya. But, the problem for telecommuting or the challenge is sometimes, kunwari naka-work from home ka, pero yung question mo naman yun, pag lumabas ka na ng bahay mo after your work from home, what kind of transport modes do you take? 'Di ba? So, sa mga ibang studies, nakita nila na nare-risk minsan or na-offset lang yung nagiging benefits ng telecommuting. Kasi paano, pagkatapos sila magtrabaho, yung ginagamit pa rin nila sa sasakyan ay yung mga non-sustainable modes pa rin. And we saw this towards yung reopening ng economy natin, no? Parang dahil yung iba parang nag-aalanganin pa, ayaw pa nila mag-public transport, parang mas leaning sila towards private transport modes. And those modes are unsustainable. So kaya mabilis din nag-deteriorate yung mga naging advantages natin nung mga lockdown periods. So another common approach in reducing emissions, laging hina-highlight to sa lahat, is yung encouraging people to shift using passenger and non-motorized transport. So we all know this diagram as well. So the idea here is that we encourage people to take public transport because per capita, per person, mas maliit yung emissions na ini-emit mo. Okay? So logically speaking, if you take public transport, mas nababawasan yung mga sasakyan. No? And pag nabawasan yung sasakyan, mas bumababa yung mga nag-emit na vehicles that contribute to poorer air quality. So, ito rin yung nabanggit kanina nung opening, no, yung where the rich do not use cars but they use public transport as well. So, aside from yung economic benefits, of course, there are environmental benefits as well. Ito mainit-init pa, no? A couple of days ago, we have some news regarding yung bike lanes. Why do we actually encourage yung pag-build ng infrastructure? So, from the previous reports ng SWS, you can see some growth of cycling households from 2021 and 2022. This was right after yung pag-develop ng mga bike networks natin all over Metro Manila and other metropolitan regions in the Philippines. So, merong impact, no? When you build the infrastructure that will support non-motorized transport, mas maraming na-encourage to use it. It's also the same for walking, no? Kaya yung mga Filipinos medyo hesitant din to walk along the roads because aside from it is unsafe, hindi rin sapat yung facilities, no? So anong mangyayari? Kung nag-aalanganin sila, where will they go? They use private modes or they would tend to use their own motorized transport. But aside from yung mga bike lanes natin, no, there's still a lot to go to work on. Kasi of course, may mga concern na saan sila magpa-park or mainit sa Pilipinas. So, paano sila maliligo? So, in other countries, yung mga models for cycling support, nagpo-provide din sila ng mga ganong facilities. Okay? So, there are a lot of studies already that have indicated the benefits of shifting to non-motorized or public transport. So, malaki yung impact niya, no? So, the Philippine Urban Mobility Program, you can search this in the internet, already outlined, no? Ano yung mga reductions in terms of particulate matter, carbon monoxide, nitrous oxide kapag pinromote natin yung non-motorized and public transport. But also, meron ding socio-economic benefits yan. No? So aside from the air quality, kasi medyo mahirap din siya ma-imagine. No? Pero meron din siyang social benefits. So for example, yung convenience, it becomes more enjoyable. Merong impact sa fitness and health. So, diba meron din mga studies na lumalabas na you need ilang thousand steps ba? 7,000 steps per day to have yung good cardiovascular health, mga ganyan. And of course, you reduce automobile travel. So ito rin yung isa rin sa mga discussions na kailangan natin ma-bring up, no, kung bakit natin pinopromote yung non-motorized transport. Diba? If you use um, bicycles instead of using your own cars, you basically contribute to reducing traffic. And that's just half a meter of road space versus ilan ba yung lanes natin na meron. So just some food for thought on that matter. Pero maraming, aside from those interventions, you can see here from this chart, no, yung additional emissions na marireduce if we consider the electrification of transport, whether private or public. So this has already been estimated by the World Bank study, and malaki rin talaga yung environment benefits niya. Okay? So, um, those interventions, yung mga electrification, emission standards, those target the efficiency of the vehicles, no? So, pwede yung Euro standards, yung fuel economy natin ng mga sasakyan, and yung electrification. So, I'll just try my best to go through this quickly. Mag-start lang tayo ng Euro 4, no? So recall natin sometime around 2018, there was this article na saying na kung gusto niyong bilhin tong sasakyan to, bilhin niyo na kasi after nito, phase out na siya. So isa sa mga considerations nun, because those older vehicles weren't Euro 4 compliant. So pag sinabi natin Euro 4 compliant, meron lang siyang mga technology, additional technology that addresses yung tailpipe emissions, no? Kumbaga mas malinis yung ine-emit nitong mga sasakyan na to compared to pre-Euro 4. Okay? So, in Asia, in Southeast Asia, almost half na rin of the Southeast Asian countries are in Euro 4. Yung fuel economy naman, ito yung matipid na pagkonsumo ng gasolina, no? So there are some vehicles na rin dyan na yung mas matipid yung pagkonsumo ng gasolina. So technically, yung mga mas maliliit, mas magagaan na sasakyan tend to consume less fuel than those that are larger. So yung mga naka-SUV dyan, they probably know this, no? Na talagang malaki yung konsumo ng gasolina nila. Okay? And of course, yung electrification, mainit-init din, very hot topic because of some of the policies that are already in place recently, no? Yung Electric Vehicle Industry Development Act and yung roadmap for electric vehicle industry. So basically, ang important lang natin matandaan when it comes to the Electric Vehicle Industry Development Act is that the government already committed, no, na parang around 5% of the vehicle fleet, 5% ng mga sasakyan shall be electric vehicles within the time frame ng roadmap. So yung roadmap, na-develop siya as early as last year. So yung roadmap doon nakalagay, ano yung mga kakailanganin. So saan magcha-charge, or basically parang gasoline stations but for electric vehicles. Ano yung mga kailangan matutunan, yung manufacturing and yung human resource. So of course, dahil panibagong technology, kailangan matutunan din kung ano yung mga ins and outs of this technology. So the target set forth by the government, meron tayong short term, medium term, and long term, no? In the long run, under the business as usual, around 850,000. But for clean energy scenario, around mga 2 million, no? So, ano yung clean energy scenario? No? So, nabanggit ni Vince kanina, no? We should shift towards yung cleaner energy. So, right now kasi, malaking share coming from coal-fired power plants, yung energy natin, yung kuryente natin. So, of course, kapag nag-shift to electric, sabihin natin, madumi rin yung pinagkukuhaan mo ng kuryente. So, yun yung kailangan natin din, no? Kasabay siya, katuwang na yun. So, yung benefits ng electrification, dapat sinasabayan din siya ng renewable energy, pag-transition sa mas malinis na kuryente. But on the ground, marami na rin yung gumagamit ng electric vehicles, and I've already seen this and on our roads na rin, no? Marami din dyan yung mga, of course, hindi rin registered because Not because hindi nila nire-registered, it's that yung current registration laws or yung guidelines aren't really in place at the time na nagsimula to. So as early as 2017, meron na ng mga electric tricycles, electric bikes, or electric motorcycles. It's just that ngayon lang din siya mas nakikita kasi it's relatively cheaper than yung mga fuel-powered na mga counterparts nila. So ginagamit siya both for personal use and for public transport. So nakikita na natin to, yung iba dyan, pinanghahatid, nakikita natin sa palengke, yung mga for typical day-to-day activities din, no? And as from 2014 to 2022, we're seeing this growth, no? Pero compared to the targets of the government, it's relatively konti pa rin siya, no? So there are still a lot of opportunities for the electrification. But why do we have to consider yung electric vehicles ba, no? Parang lagi siya napag-uusapan. So let's just try to box our conversation towards reducing emissions. Compared sa mga ICE vehicles natin, yung mga typical na sasakyan natin, pag electric, wala kang tambucho. So wala kang tailpipe emissions. Yun lang talaga generally. So yung merong mga studies na nagsasabi from Europe and the US that if you replace a single car, yung traditional na kotse, with a battery electric vehicle, malaki yung offset ng emissions, around 12 to 23 tons of carbon dioxide, depending on the vehicle size. So in California, nakita nila na yung increased share ng battery electric vehicles. So when we say battery electric vehicles, yung talagang kinakargahan na lang. Yung battery na lang yung nagpapaandar ng sasakyan. So these resulted in lower average annual NOx concentrations, and yung health benefits niya, mas kumonte yung asthma-related emergency department visits. Pero of course, meron din mga other side of the coin, ika nga, na pinag-uusapan, no? You have, kahit wala kang tailpipe emissions, meron ka pa rin yung emissions as a result of production. So yung pagmina ng mga materyales para sa battery ng sasakyan, so meron din siyang emissions. But if we still look at it from yung buong life cycle niya, no, from the moment na binubuo yung sasakyan hanggang sa matapos siya, parang relatively mas maliit pa rin yung emissions ng electric vehicles. And at Cleaner Asia, we're trying to compile additional information, no? So tinatry namin i-compare yung mga tailpipe emissions from battery electric vehicles, hybrid electric vehicles, and internal combustion engine. So kung concerned talaga dun sa environment, no, mas leaning tayo towards yung electric vehicles natin. So yung pinaka malinis sa tatlong to, yung battery electric, and then it's the hybrid electric, and then yung internal combustion. So for context lang din, yung hybrid electric vehicles, may battery din siya, no? Pero umaandar pa rin siya by yung gasolina. May gasolina pa rin siya. Excuse me. So in other countries, no, meron talaga comparison na rin, no, available. So for example, in the United States, meron ganitong website, yung fueleconomy.gov. Nandun lahat ng mga sasakyan, pwede kayo mamili, tignan mo, meron doon ano yung fuel economy. So when you say fuel economy ulit, no, kung gusto mong mas matipid, gusto mo mas mataas yung mileage niya per every liter or gallon ng gasolina. Okay? So this one is around yung 3.2 gallons per 100 miles. So it's at 2.1 gallons per 100 miles. So yung hybrid mas tipid on that end. So and then meron din silang comparison, no? Ano ba yung tipid mo? So ito yung mga ways nila, no, for consumers to be more aware, no, kung ano yung nagiging impact nila. And of course, meron din silang benefits as a result of that, which is fuel savings, 'di ba? Lalo na ngayon, no, napakamahal ng gasolina natin. So that means meron tayong opportunities as well. So you may ask, meron bang ganitong sistema yung na parang gustong gawin ng government? So the Department of Energy actually is kahapon um, meron silang consultations, may public consultation sila regarding the vehicle fuel economy labeling program. So what this does is pag mapasa siya, magkakaroon ng fuel economy labels. So pareho lang siya, no? Parang pag bumibili tayo ng appliance, meron tayong mga star rating, ano yung konsumo na ng kuryente. So meron din ganun para sa mga sasakyan. And kasama din doon, no, may relationship yun, no? Pag mas mataas siyang magkonsumo, mas marami siyang ma-emit na emissions and vice versa. So this one is a study from ICSC. So kahapon din, ni-launch din niya ng ICSC, no? For our colleagues from ICSC, no? They presented some cases, no? Ano rin ba yung mga benefits ng electric vehicle sa public transport naman. So nag-compare sila between e-jeepneys and Euro 4. And in the case of Lado Transco sa General Santos, na-demonstrate nila, no? In some cases, mas mataas na yung net income. Kasi mas maliit yung operations nila. Ano yung operations? Yung paggasolina, ang laki na natitipid nila dito. So compared to the Euro 4, which consumes diesel, versus yung operations, yung charging, mas maliit, no? By almost 1/5 or, yeah, 1/5. So 80% halos yung nabawas nila. And in total, kahit mas malaki yung initial expense mo, no, for the electric jeepneys, they found out that yung nababawi din nila sa operations din. So I encourage everyone also to look at the report of ICSC, yung economics of e-jeepney transportation. So they launched this yesterday. So in terms of electrification and all the other interventions that we have discussed, no, important talaga yung communication. Because yung pag-adopt natin, it's always hampered by a lack of knowledge about EVs and ano yung benefits natin. Not just with EVs, no, even do sa ibang mga interventions natin, no. And sometimes nakikita natin, in some of the videos that are posted online, makikita natin na maraming mga context na context na nawawala. So, consumers with good knowledge and positive perceptions for e-vehicles, are most likely to purchase or in transition na yun. So, kailangan talaga natin ng communication. And this is one of the challenges that we also have to address in terms of sustainable transport. Very few kasi nakikita yung mga benefits nito and laging napuput into the spotlight lang yung traffic. But when we consider yung how addressing traffic through these sustainable interventions, altogether this has an impact towards a better environment. So I guess that would end my presentation. No? So if there are some questions, again, you can also reach out to the team. So here are the names of my colleagues. So ayan, marami pong salamat.
Thank you very much, Dr. Abad. Napakaganda nung discussion na yan, no, Marie? Salamat. Very eye-opening discussion. Marami tayong natutunan. Kahit ako, natutunan ko yung mas economical pala yung electric vehicle kaysa dun sa
Yeah.
Euro 5, Euro 4. At iba pa pala yun. Kasi akala ko, yung lahat ng EV na dumadaan, sabi nila EV daw, e-jeepney. Yung palang iba doon, Euro 4.
Pero
Okay. Oh, sorry.
David, I'm curious to know kung mas bata rin siya sa Kamayan. Kagaya ni Vince, ang babata nila, di ba? And they're so good. Ang kagaling. I'm
Siguro,
happy.
hindi lang natin nalalaman, Marina, at Kamayan Forum, in a way, has also influenced part of the changes in the environment in the Philippines.
Oh yes, I do believe that. Kasi may may chain effect, no? Para ripple effect.
Yes,
So,
of course.
Yeah.
And now
So,
let's go to those who would be reacting. Our panel of reactors for today will be reacting to our two speakers. First and foremost, let's call the committee secretary of the House Committee on Ecology from the House of Representatives, Attorney Dilbert Quatulio. Attorney
Ketulio.
Quetulio.
Catulio.
Sorry for that. Yes.
How many
Go ahead.
reactors are here? Ah, Ako lang ata.
Ah,
Ako lang ba
wow.
reactors dito? Mga reactor dito.
No, there's another one.
All right, that's good. That's good. Thank you. Ayan, we have one from EMB. Is it?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
You will be going first, sir. After that, we will introduce the next reactor.
Well, shall I go ahead now?
Yes,
Yes,
please
please.
do.
All right. Well, I'd like to congratulate Engineer Vince Carlo Garcia and Dr. Raymond Abad. Talagang Francis, mukhang talagang pabata na ng pabata ang mga environmentalist. When I entered the committee, parang ako pinakabata eh. Ayun, But anyway, I'd like to congratulate them. Parang ang dami kong natutunan. Well, first of all, I'd like to inform the body that we have already received or there is a House resolution officially referred to the Committee on Ecology. It is the House Resolution number 1324. And it was introduced by no other than the chair of the Committee on Ecology, Representative Marlene B. Alonte. So this is the resolution directing the Committee on Ecology to inquire into the Department of Energy, of Environment and Natural Resources program pertaining to the review and adoption of clean air emission standards and consider for this purpose the adoption of the updated World Health Organization air quality guideline values. Kasi we were informed that there is already a 2020 updated World Health Standards or emission standards. So gusto rin namin na medyo malayo na ito from the standards that was stipulated or set forth in the Clean Air Act. Talaga namang maano mo. At the time, we believe that when the law was passed, these standards are at par. Kumbaga, but anyway, there is already a window or a provision in the Clean Air Act providing or instructing the DNR to update these standards to more stringent or basically with numericals at par with the internationally accepted standards. So yun nga ang first question ko, if we would be saying that the WHO is the standards, is the internationally accepted standards, perhaps the committee would be would really appreciate whether these are internationally accepted standards or it was accepted in the Southeast Asia, yung ganyan ba? So we would know also we are we are already lagging behind these our Asian neighbors insofar as implementing or having standards for clean air emissions. So perhaps that would be one of my questions. Well, going back to the House Resolution 1324, it was set forth here that there is nga the World Health Organization Global Ambient Air Quality Guidelines in 2021, which is more or exacting more stringent limits. It also says that as a rationale of the House resolution, it said that the air pollution is among the top 5 risk factors of death in the Philippines according to the 2019 State Global Air Report. And there was already stated that the report of CREA, or the Center for Research on Energy and Clean Air, which mentioned that a corresponding economic cost exposure to air pollution in the Philippines is estimated at 2.32 trillion in 2019. I think our speakers have already mentioned that there is indeed a big effect. Di ba? Parang hindi ko lang na-note kung gaano kalaki yung effect ng air pollution sa Pilipinas in our health. And there is also a mention citing Section 12 of the Clean Air Act that the air quality and emission standards can be updated by the DNR to values which are effectively more relevant, stringent, and comparable to the WHO ambient air quality guidelines. If it's started as the internationally accepted standards, which I would believe so kasi galing na nga sa WHO. But as I mentioned, the committee would be interested in knowing whether our neighboring countries have already adopted these standards. Meron din dito na, well, if it is passed, well, we would be directing the DNR, or urging the DNR to review and accordingly adopt more relevant and stringent cleaner emission standards, both for stationary and mobile sources, and to consider for this purpose the adoption of that WHO standards. So I have so many notes here, parang dinisect ko siya from mobile, stationary, and for the two emissions. So first, I don't know kung sinong sasagot, pero meron kasi nga dito sinasabi nga natin kung baka may magtanong when it was mentioned that it was updated in 2021, meron ba tayong 2022, 2023, or it's the latest? That would be the first question kay Engineer Vince Garcia tayo. And then, ano ba, parang isa-isa lang ba, or shall I drop everything or every question? Okay lang ba? All right.
While we were
Okay lang ba?
thinking,
Or one at a time?
while we were thinking, the questions will be posted in the Q&A, and that we could get your insights,
All right.
your
All right.
reactions to the
Anyway,
presentations.
I'll go ahead with these interesting questions or queries. So, well, the second would be when we're saying that when we say that the 80% of the air pollution emanates from the mobile sources, is it really affected by the engine maintenance, or would it really matter if our fuel quality is not that clean, kumbaga? All right. Another question would be, would the modernization of our mobile transport would affect or would somewhat decrease this pollution? So another thing would be, is the question, have we gone through the issues of whether the private emission testing centers are more reliable in seeing to it vehicles' exhaust emissions are compliant with the standards? Baka the committee might be interested in knowing these things because we might say na hindi naman kailangan natin ng mas mataas na standards, but the implementation of our current standards just and seeing to it that these testing centers are doing their job and seeing to it that the vehicles being tested are compliant with the standards. Kasi there would be issues na meron mga, very lenient emission testing centers, and then it's also an allegation that the our government agency testing public transportation emissions or exhaust emissions are not really doing the job. So these are just one of the allegations. We say also that this is really important, the improvement of a public transportation system and promote active mobility, as so said by Engineer Garcia. But also, we maybe in our studies, we can also consider, housing programs near the place of work of our workers or laborers, so that we could have, we could avoid this pollution. And as far as the transition to RE, medyo marami kasi pasunod-sunod ito. As far as to transition to IE, well, it was said that, having a tighter standards to fossil operated plants would encourage the employment of REs, di ba? But have we somewhat considered big incentives to electronic vehicle or HEV, or have we gone through a study or discussions whether the incentive being provided by the government to the use of, with the use of EV and HEV really encouraging, or parang baka naman masyadong mababa rin. So that's why people are not using or opting the use of electronic vehicles or the purchase of EV vehicles. Kasi meron akong parang discussion din ako. We computed parang for the span of 5 years. Kasi it is really known that EV vehicles or HEV vehicles is a lot costlier than the regular vehicles, as said by Dr. Abada. So kung yung Cross na lang, Toyota Cross is 1.3 and the HEV is 1.6. So that's 300,000 or 1.7, almost 1.7. So that's 400,000. Kumbaga, cost difference. So parang iniisip mo ngayon, for the span of 5 years, dapat mas mura yung savings mo sa gasolina. So yung ganun. But if we bring down the cost of this EV vehicle, siguro mas maganda ang kanyang fighting platform. Okay. Yung perhaps the consideration of housing projects near or would increase near their place of work would increase the increase of proximity or accessibility of public services would reduce travel or the use of vehicles. Siguro mas maganda rin ma-discuss din natin yun. And perhaps this is a question: would you think that the problem of pollution from mobile sources ano ba, the exhaust emissions, and parang nabanggit ko na kanina. And not the increase in numbers of these vehicles. Kasi merong paragraph si Dr. Raymond na tinignan na yung tumaas yung ating mobile source pollutants when when there is also an increase in numbers of these vehicles. Pero we should also somehow siguro study on the bad exhaust of these vehicles. Whereas insofar as bike lanes, well, I myself is a biker also, kaya mas gusto ko talaga yung gusto ko marinig yung cycling support, perhaps a shower area in our workplaces would do a lot if you are biking to work. So there is also another, parang nagde-devil's advocate na rin sila, na sinasabi nila na with the infra or bike lanes or adoption of bike lanes, well, it push or somewhat spur the increase of pollution from mobile sources. Kasi nga, it causes traffic jam because of the decrease in the motor vehicle lanes. So, nung umigsi, mas nagkakaroon ng traffic at accordingly, consequently, tumataas rin yung kanilang emissions. And then, yung practicality rin ng electronic vehicles and HEV vehicles, siguro mas maganda rin makita rin natin, hindi lang, well, we could say really na mas okay ang electronic vehicles, pero yung practicality, pagka mahaba na yung binabiyahe mo, pagka yung speed mo ba, parang I heard na if you use electronic vehicles, it would parang it would kumbaga come only to a certain speed, unlike the HEV vehicles. Well, also, the use of electronic vehicles would also proliferate battery as a hazardous waste. Siguro isama na rin natin yung adoption ng EPR or extended producer responsibility insofar as the recovery or recycling of these waste or battery waste. Yung sa generally po ba sa well, that would do for the mobile sources and for stationary sources, if I may continue. Sabi natin kasi 17% ang contribution ng stationary sources pollution. Baka magiging interested din yung committee namin, Committee on Ecology, to know if then it would substantially affect yung ating current data with the use of incinerations or hindi ito yung mga high-tech thermal treatment facilities. So that would be one. And then we would also note that the adoption, what do you recommend here po pala sa pag-adopt ng WHO standards? Would it be as a one drop or as in a phase-in method? Parang gradual po ba, or do you recommend one drop of standards? Ito na for for say 15 days or following the adoption of the law or the promulgation of the law, this is the standards? Or do you recommend, a phase-in approach in the adoption of these more stringent measures? Considering that I would really look, would really note that the adoption of these standards would hurt our yung ating mga coal power plants and other industries that will be affected. So that would be, I think that would be all. Thank you so much. And congratulations to Angel Beans, Carlo Garcia, and Dr. Raymond Apat. Ang dami ko natutunan. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you, Marie. Thank you, Attorney
I have to unmute. Okay.
Tulio. Yeah, thank you,
Finally.
Attorney.
Okay.
Go ahead, Marie. Introduce our next
That's
reactor for
right.
today.
But first, I want to thank Attorney Catulio also. I had a lot of questions. You can ask them in the open forum at Attorney Catulio. Our next reactor is a graduate of Bachelor of Science in Chemical Engineering from the De La Salle University. He has been with the EMB since 2016 and is currently assigned to the Air Quality Management section of the Environmental Quality Management Division of the EMB and holds a position of Engineer 2. He handles concerns on stationary sources and serves as the Secretariat of the Sampling Assessment Team, or SAT. Friends, let us welcome Engineer Paul Nathan B. Vallar.
Yan. First and foremost, thank you for inviting the DNR through the Environmental Management Bureau. So it was assigned to us, the Air Quality Management section. So our section is the mainly responsible in implementing or monitoring the implementation of the Philippine Clean Air Act. So thank you for inviting us in your 34th year celebration. Yeah. So first and foremost, I would like to congratulate Engineer Vince and Dr. Abad. So their names are actually quite familiar to me. Then I think our age gaps are actually not really that far apart. So your presentations were very eye-opening. So there were various topics that you presented, which is I would like to say controversial or a very hot topic when it comes to air quality management. No? So we hope that discussions presented earlier would also be transmitted to the Department of Energy and Department of Transportation because I'm not sure if they're around here right now, especially the DOTR, because they're the one mainly responsible in the implementation of the mobile source management. For example, the public transportation and the motor vehicle implementation in the Philippines. So thank you for recognizing the efforts of the EMB, especially in the monitoring of ambient air quality, the monitoring of the different industries, the conduct of emissions inventory, and etc. So we're very happy that you took time to navigate through our website because we're actually quite proud of our website because it contains so much information. So you can browse there the emissions inventory, the ambient air quality monitoring. There's also a section there for roadside apprehension of the different anti-smoke belching units. Also, there's a section there for industry management. For example, an industry needs to have permit to operate. So we have our database there for industries which have permit to operate. We also have information on the different airsheds in the Philippines. So we're glad that you browse our website for those kinds of information. So on my first inquiry, it's actually quite similar to the comment of Attorney Catillo with regards to the implementation of the World Health Organization standards. So would it be in a phased approach, or would it be like a one-time, big-time implementation? Because the WHO standard, when it was actually formulated and implemented, is not a one-time decrease in the original guideline value. No? So it was actually a phase-by-phase decrease. So that is my first question, and I would like also to comment on why the bureau is not directly, or is not does not want to directly adopt the guideline value, because we would like it to be a science-based approach using local data. So the WHO standards, so um, we also would like to know whether the other countries are implementing it, um, especially the our neighboring countries, but also we would like to know how they came up with those standards, because for your information, when it was um, passed or implemented by the WHO in 2021, we updated our PM2.5 guideline values in 2020. So 1 year after mas naging strict yung PM2.5. So now we're faced with this um, pressure or question. So when we updated the PM2.5, we actually based it on our local monitoring data. So our filters from our 138 stations nationwide, we collected them. Then we had our consultant, the University of the Philippines, analyze the filters, and we came up with the updated guideline value. And I would like to also update the body that similarly with the PM2.5, we are on the process of updating the PM10 guideline values. Then in that study, so we actually found out that the resulting um, new or amended guideline value would be similar or close to the WHO standards. So the proposed PM10 guideline value for 24-hour or daily average is 50, while the WHO is 45. Then the proposed annual guideline value is 20, while the WHO is 15. So it's actually close, and it is science-based, and it is based on our data. And also, the PM10 data was consulted with our local healthcare practitioners. So we invited the doctors and the doctors from WHO, DOH. We also have Philippine Heart Center and other relevant hospitals. So in addition to that, we are also developing additional hazardous air pollutants guideline values. So if both of you have seen the guideline value in the Cleaner Act, so it does not have metals aside from the lead, right? So one of the outputs of the HACCP study is to develop heavy metal ambient air quality guideline value. And also, in relation to greenhouse gases, um, with respect to the short-lived climate pollutants, we are also trying to develop the first ever black carbon guideline value. So the black carbon is actually a byproduct of combustion, and it's actually smaller than the PM2.5 particle. No? So yeah, so that's for the ambient air. So in relation to the stationary sources, so for the as presented earlier by Engineer Vince, so we're you have noted that we have old emission standards already. Then I would just like to update that the Bureau is conducting a study to make the emission standards more stringent. And we had a consultation with the different stakeholders, I think last January. So it requires a little more polishing. Then what we used in that study is the actual data that comes from the different industries in the Philippines. So coal-fired power plants, cement plants, manufacturing industries, etc. So we're conducting statistical analysis. Then we are proposing stringent or lower emission standards. So for the motor vehicles or mobile sources, we're actually proposing to um, a Euro 5 emission standard and vehicle standard already. Then we have conducted various consultations with the um, uh, vehicle manufacturer, motorcycle manufacturer, motor vehicle manufacturers, and also we have consulted the Department of Energy and Department of Transportation with regards to our plans to shift from Euro 4 to Euro 5. So by the way, the Euro 4 was implemented in 2015. Then one of the provisions included in that law, DAO, Department Administrative Order, is that in 2016 there are no more Euro 2 motor vehicles which will come into the country. So for our timeline for the Euro 5, so we're eyeing that in 2026, we will be adopting the Euro 5 fuel standards already. Then in 2027, we will be adopting the Euro 5 emission standards there. So in my other notes, I have also noted that you mentioned that we need to increase the public transport or we need to strengthen the public transport. So the Bureau supports this initiative. So we actually conducted a study on the effects of jeepney modernization on air quality. Then I think what you presented earlier, Dr. Abad, which is similar to what we have found, in our study. So we also support the the creation of more non-motorized transport infrastructure or systems. But then again, we have to consult the other implementing agencies with regards to this, such as the DPWH and the DOTR. Then I would like to update the body that we are conducting the update of the Philippine Clean Air Roadmap with or what we call DAO 2000-82. So DAO 2000-82 is actually a 24-year roadmap. No? So in the roadmap, it specifies actions on the implementation of the Cleaner Act. So what will the DNR do when it comes to industrial management? What will the DOTR do when it comes to mobile source management, etc. So actually on last Wednesday, we conducted a major consultation in this. Then we invited various stakeholders from the national government agencies, industry sectors, local government units, academe, and non-government organizations. So they actually inputted some commitments and some ideas on how to implement or include in the implementation clean air strategies. Then lastly, I would like to um, support what you have stated in your closing remarks, that one of the challenges in implementation of the Cleaner Act is the sharing of knowledge. So not everyone is aware of the issues on air quality, um, especially our um, brothers and sisters in the marginalized sector. So I would like to congratulate the this event, this Kamayan event, for this um, knowledge sharing session for this Friday. That would be all. Thank you so much.
Maraming salamat sa ating next panel reactor, Engineer Paul Balyar. Thank you very much. That's very interesting. And he also have a couple of questions to be answered. And later on, there are also questions on the chat box. Okay, for now, let's have a group photo first before we proceed later on to the open forum. We will invite you to turn on your cameras for a souvenir photo. Our Zoom host, Maribeth, will be calling the shot shortly. Meanwhile, as you settle down, Marie and I have some very brief announcements for you.
That's right. First, about the evaluation. The GC Secretariat will share a link to an evaluation form for today's Kamayan Forum session in the chat box. The link will also be flashed on screen. Please take time to give us your feedback to help us improve the forum. Thank you.
And for the information of those who request an e-certificate of participation, there are only two requirements. First, the participant must have been actually present in the forum and not merely pre-registered. And second, the participant must submit a duly accomplished evaluation form.
Yes.
Now, let's go for the group photo. You, Maribeth.
Okay, and now we are ready to open the question and answer portion. I'm sure you have a lot of questions. David?
Before we do that, please do follow these guidelines. First, to ask a question or share a comment, you may either raise your hand to verbalize it or post your question or comment on the chat box and we will read them for you. Baka may mga nahihiya, ayaw magtanong, use the chat box. Please unmute your microphone as soon as your name is called. Give your name, organization, school, or location, then state your question and to whom it is directed. Please make your questions concise and direct to the point. The same with your feedback and comments. And lastly, we will take as many questions as time permits on a first come, first serve basis.
Okay, who takes the first shot? Any raised hands?
I?
Yes, go ahead, Dr. G.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much to all the speakers, to the speakers and the reactors. Really, very, very informative. I was surprised to see that the big portion of the emissions come from, that's why I asked that question, what is MT and PT? Yung
MC and
pala,
TC, yeah.
oo, motorcycles and tricycles. So I always thought that they were the more efficient modes of transportation kasi per person, you don't have a big load of, metals, machinery, etc. But then you said, I think our first speaker said that they are very inefficient.
Yes.
So are they inefficient because of their motors, inherently inefficient because of their technology? Or is it because, or are they a big source of pollution because there are so many, like the motorcycles, there are so many? And then are the tricycles more dangerous, which is why now there is this conversation about taking them off the highways? Or is it because of their speed? They can't go as fast as the other vehicles. My number two question is, uh, if e-vehicles, well, you have shown that e-vehicles are better for the environment, but they have to be incentivized to buy, no? Of course, the initial cost is important, but even the I don't know about the charging cost. Where for every so many watts of electricity, how does it compare to the energy delivered by a unit of gasoline, for example? It is said that our electricity cost is so high in Asia, so I think the government should incentivize the use of electricity overall, but also for charging the e-vehicles, so that more will migrate to it, so that the operations, specifically the charging cost, will be attractive. So those are my 2 points. Thank you very much.
Nina, do you want to say who you're addressing the question to?
Probably Vince,
Mm.
the first
Okay.
Okay.
speaker. Yeah.
Thank you so much po, Ma'am Nina, for your question. So, tungkol po dun sa motorcycles and tricycles, so the graph that I showed was just the number of registered vehicles, no? I get your comment po, yung sinabi ko kanina, efficient. Ano po siya, yung in some kinds of air pollutants po, mas polluting po yung motorcycles and tricycles. So hindi po siya sa efficiency, parang may ibang certain kinds, for example, NO2 emissions. Yun, possibly po siyang mas mataas on average kaysa po sa mga four-wheeled vehicles.
O2,
So,
oxygen?
ano po? NO2 po.
NO2.
NO2.
Okay.
Yes po. Opo, nitrous oxide po. So, ayun po siya. Pero po, ang gusto lang po na ipakita ng graph na yun is as the number of vehicles, yung mobile sources of air pollution ay nag-increase, yung yung tonelada ng air pollutants na napupunta sa atmosphere is tumataas din po talaga. So, sobrang related po nila doon. So, yung graph po na pinakita ko na may MC and TC is number of registered tricycles and
Registered yun.
motorcycles. Yes po,
Not,
opo.
not their contribution to air pollution.
Not po, hindi po.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay.
Okay po. Mhm.
Yung other question ko, yung the cost of charging electric vehicles compared to use of fossil fuels. Maybe that can be directed to our reactor from the House of Representatives. Pwede bang i-incentivize natin yung use of electric vehicles by lowering the cost of electricity? Kasi, cost is different from price, no? Price also includes all kinds of fees. It's not only the cost of the product, but you have all kinds of fees. So baka naman, maybe it's a suggestion rather than a question for the House of Representatives to consider that. Incentivize electric vehicles use by lowering the fees to incentivize, to make it attractive. Thank you.
Okay, so who will answer that? Attorney, is that a question you can answer?
Well, it's a recommendation. Pero yan yung magandang mga avenues eh. Di ba meron nga tayong stream at saka train law. Paano mo mababawasan yung mga cost ng mga yan. But only through taxation. But somewhat our train law. And we could we would really expect the government would be really big staunch stand to remain with what the train law provides. So parang hanggang doon lang sila always. But it can always be argued na baka pwede. So the first one that the first agency that we should persuade is the Department of Finance. Yan ang sa pagdating kasi sa ibang agencies, okay lang sa amin yan eh. Pero but it has become a policy that whenever a tax incentive is being provided by a piece of legislation, kailangan concur ang Department of Finance. Otherwise, it will be vetoed by the President.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
I saw I see two hands. I
Yeah.
saw Tessa's hand first, and then so we'll
Ma'am
hear her.
Angelina Villanueva.
Yes, after Tessa.
Okay, go ahead, Miss Tessa.
Yes. Good afternoon. Thank you to all the speakers. There are very interesting discussions, no? I went to SM Fairview, and I saw some charging stations already in their parking lots. Oh, I was surprised. So, and so I was thinking, pwede ba to sa lahat ng mga electric vehicles, or is it particular only for a certain brand? What I'm worried about is people might just start coming up with what is needed in order to push itong electric vehicles natin, no? I think the government has to start coming up with laws and guidelines. Kasi sa SM, they're starting it already. And there is another idea that instead of going to, you can go to charging stations, but instead of charging your vehicle there, yung batteries, exchange of electric batteries na lang for the cars. But I don't know if this is feasible for all brands of electric vehicles. So baka dapat may uniformity din yung mga designs ng mga vehicles so that it will be easier to do this battery exchange or do this vehicle charging in different malls, for example, just like what SM is doing. So maybe that's a question for sino ba? Yung sa government? How do you
Si
intend?
Attorney Catulio. or EMB.
I think sa Congress, I think.
Congress. So
Oo,
Attorney Catulio.
para buo and comprehensive yung ating mga laws, hindi lang segmented. Okay, thank you.
Okay. So I think that's a question for you, Attorney Catulio, again.
So under the HEV vehicle law, covered na lahat yan. Hindi lang sa SM, mas nauna ata dyan ang Glorieta at saka sa Ayala centers, ano. Meron na sila. Pero nandun na naka-provide na po yun sa law. But insofar as the implementation is concerned, siyempre DOE yan at saka DNR.
DNR. Okay. We can, is that okay? Tessa, did you get your answer?
DOE pala because kailangan mo kasi ng electric power supply, no? So hindi lahat sila pwede makapagkabit if the supply coming from the Meralco is not sufficient to sustain yung electronic charging operations.
Dr. Abad, before we go to Sister Angie and you may want, I want to know if why you're raising your hand, are you going to answer or make a comment?
Opo, provide lang din po ng additional information. So under the EVIDA law naman po, there are already departments that have specific mandates already to support po yung electric vehicle. So sa DOE po, sa kanila po lahat ng electric vehicle charging standards. So meron na po silang prescribed standards na rin po. And they are the ones that are doing the certifications sa mga charging stations po natin. As for the requirements po dun sa parking, as far as I recall po, parang meron din pong goals po under the roadmap for electric vehicles. So meron po silang nakaspecify na or meron silang tinatarget na for every ilang parking slots sa mga establishments, meron din po sila dapat i-allocate for charging infrastructure dito sa mga ganun. So ayan, nauna lang po yung sa mga private, mga private na, no? Pero yun din po yung aspirations ng roadmap ng EV industry sa Pilipinas po.
Thank you, Sir Raymond. Konti lang pahabol, Marie, kay Attorney kay Tulio, no? Gusto ko lang siguro maintindihan kung wala bang oversight function ang Congress when it comes to the implementation of the laws passed. Kasi parang nababato natin sa mga department. Is there no oversight to ensure that the laws are implemented?
Meron po yun. It's already in place in the law na merong oversight function. So, pwede with a resolution, perhaps, the Joint Congressional Oversight Committee can act on our concerns.
Oh,
Thank you,
thank
thank
you.
you.
That's good. That's good. Now let's have Sister Angie's question. Sister Angie.
Okay, I already addressed this question to Attorney Ketulio from the House Committee on Ecology.
He's very popular
Also
today.
to do with laws, but maybe any of the others could also answer. It seems to me that there are so many private vehicles kasi in at least in NCR, no? And it causes a lot of traffic as well as the air pollution. So couldn't we have some laws that would limit the number of private cars? Like if you have a road tax for the ones who own private cars, or if you can limit ownership of cars. I mean, some people own several cars because they are saying that kasi may color coding, so they might need 7 cars in order to make sure that they have a car for every day. The other thing is also to limit the ownership of cars to people who have garages in which to put the cars. Kasi ang dami-dami ng cars ang dami-daming owners of cars that use the roads as their garage, which also makes the traffic worse. So that's what I want to ask. I think we can have laws so that the number of private cars could be decreased rather than it's increasing and increasing and increasing.
Okay.
There
Attorney
are
Catulio.
ordinances that that says that, or that prevents people from buying a vehicle without their own garage. 'Di ba? Kasi kaso ang problema lang, hindi naman nila tinitingnan kung bumili yung presidente 3 kotse, isa lang yung garahe niya. Siyempre, he would declare just one garage, ano. But anyway, hindi, parang wala pa tayo doon kasi the means of transportation is a necessity to us, di ba? Parang tama yung sinabi ng ating mga speakers, ang gagaling nila, na dapat kasabayan ng mass transportation, efficient na mass transportation kasi 'di ba? Kung pupunta ka ng Manila, you're coming from say Laguna, like myself, kung wala akong means of transportation, di magkakotse talaga ako. Tapos pag coding ako, di siyempre bibili ako ng another kotse. Di ba? Ganun naman unless na you want an electronic vehicle just so you could be exempted from color coding. Di ba? Yan ang mga nasa electronic vehicles law natin. So yung mga ganyan ba, kailangan talaga it should always be coupled with mass improvement of mass transportation. Efficient mass transportation, hindi yung mabagal, di ba? Gusto natin if you're coming from Bicol or say, Parañaque, papunta ka ng Quezon City, sana mabilis din naman. Otherwise, baka naman mas mabilis pa magkotse kaysa sumakay ka ng tram. Diba? So it should always be coupled with the provision of these common public services. But we will come to that, parang like Singapore did, di ba? In-improve nila yung mass transportation nila and then they come up with a very drastic authoritative regulation. Kumbaga, increasing an onerous tax, di ba? imposing onerous tax sa pag-purchase ng motor vehicles.
You know, Attorney Ketulio, what you said about color coding gives me thought that this is also unjust because the color coding doesn't work for those who can afford to buy more cars and only punish those who can afford only one car. So
Correct.
that is so unjust. I mean, how do we address that?
Marami po ring unjust so many venues and corners talaga na adjust talaga. Meron pa nga yung bibili ka ng kotse, so you want to be, kumbaga you would use or have alternative vehicle to use during your color coding of your another car. And then you would receive your registration, bibigyan ka ng DOTC ng same number coding, parehong Wednesday.
Oh my gosh.
Kotse mo. So, anong gagawin mo? Di bibili ka uli, di ba? What you would do is to buy a second-hand car na mapipiliin mo yung color coding niya so that you could use it. You could, go to your place of work.
Crazy.
Oh, yes. Yun nga ang problema rin natin talagang. Pero kung may mass transportation, ba't ako magmamaneho ng ganong kahaba, ganong katagal, di ba? Parang except if you are, carrying voluminous documents. Yeah. Yung mga ganun ba. Pero mass transportation, improvement of this same is really necessary just so we could avoid the use of this vehicle as what our speakers.
So what will it take to get the government to implement measures like this? Matagal na ng mga problemang to parang wala namang nangyayari. So what can we do?
Hindi, I think we're going there. Meron na tayong mga, di ba, may mga MRTs na tayo. Matatapos na rin po ito. Tignan din lang natin kung gaano kabilis ang government natin in implementing this.
No, is there something we can do to accelerate this? I mean, what are we doing wrong and what are we doing right?
Well, in fairness to the government, they are really working hard in looking and appropriating funds just so these projects get mobilized para at saka ma-expedite na rin. Pero I think parang if I not mistaken, parang lagi they are on track. Parang ganyan lagi.
Okay.
I really hope din na sana matapos din. Diba?
Yes, we all want the same thing, di ba? I saw Mila Serrana's hand
she's
raised a
raising her
while
hand
ago.
before.
But
Good
Go ahead, Mila.
afternoon. Thank you very much. I have actually three questions. The first is on the standard for air pollutants. Engineer Valyar said a while back that they are doing standardization, right? And they found out that compared to the WHO levels, there are some that where they have come up with data already, at least 5 levels lower than the WHO stated standard, and that the standard must be science-based. First and foremost, I always presume that the WHO standard is always science-based. And by saying that our data would show at least 5 levels higher than the WHO, I would like to say that it's best to get the lower level. I mean, the more stringent level for really monitoring pollutants. And definitely, data will come as progress in science. Thus, like for example, I came across just recently an article by UTMB, preventive medicine, by my former mentor, si Dr. William Au, which really look into the health hazard of benzene. And what they did was the group reviewed all the data on the effects of benzene and really, yung clinical data of workers who were affected by benzene in their workplace. And they found out that, and actually they suggested this, that based on these studies, on the studies they reviewed, the new exposure limits should be less than 0.07 ppm rather than the current 1 ppm. Ibig sabihin, talagang mas mababa pa dapat, mas stringent pa dapat. And then, yun yung kay Engineer Valiar, no, yung sa DENR, I would really suggest that you adapt because I don't think there's a question with regards to its being science-based. And using a more stringent standard would be best for all of us. Kasi kulang pa naman yung data sa marami, no? And then yung second question ko, it has something to do with the MMDA move to really limit, no, the use of roads by the e-vehicles, especially those using their e-vehicles to bring their children to the schools. Parang it's discouraging eh. Especially for us, no? Kasi lalo na yung isa kong pamangkin recently, he went to the market using his e-vehicle. Eh, hindi naman lahat eh, within the subdivision. You have to cut across major roads, no? Hinuli siya and he was fined 1,000. Niwala man lang like yung first warning, ganon, or what. 1,000 kaagad eh. Actually, you're trying to save and then you will be fined because you're using e-vehicle. Tapos yung isa, no, naku, nalimutan ko yung isa. Anyway, yun yung dalawang ko, no, yung tanong ko so far.
Okay,
On
who will
standards
answer?
on the MMDA move to limit the e-vehicles road use. I hope to remember my other one. Thank you. Later.
Yes. While your question is being answered by?
Actually, kay Engineer Valyar, yung sa DNR standards, and by Engineer Catulio.
I saw Vince's
Oo.
hand also. I saw. So I don't know if he wants to say something, Vince.
Thank you so much po, Ma'am Miles, for your question po. Kahit address po siya kay Engineer Valyar. So, yung sa WHO po, tama po kayo na yun ay science-based. Ang ginagamit po na dito doon is worldwide data. Yun po yung ginagamit. I think sila Engineer Valyar po, nag-try din po kayo, sir, na gumawa din po ng study ninyo na sarili na Philippine conditions po yung ginagamit. Ayun po. Medyo ang interesting po na naging malapit yung na-come up nila na standard. So I think it's a step in the right direction po. As for naman po dun sa tanong niyo po ni Attorney Ketulio po at saka ni Engineer Villar kanina kung kailangan ba na one time big time na i-adopt yung ambient air quality guidelines from the WHO. Siyempre ito po ay ideally, maganda po yun. Pero sa current na standards po natin, I think Cleaner Act, andun na yung mga standards yun since 2000. Nagkaroon ng update yung WHO noong 2005. Pagkaroon ng update na yun, naging outdated na yung standards natin. And ngayon nga, 2021, na naging mas outdated pa lalo yung standards natin. So, yung WHO po kasi ng mga standards, meron din po silang mga interim targets na pwede pong gamitin ng iba't ibang countries po na parang kung nga, ganito yung, kung ganito yung susundin mong target na ambient air quality standard mo, ganito yung mortality na expected. And then, ayun po. So, basically, science-based po siya. Pwede po nating mag-set siguro ng interim targets, sundin natin yung WHO standards na mga interim targets and magkaroon tayo ng expectation ko ano yung expected na mortality based on those standards. Tapos, comment lang din po ako kay Engineer Valier kanina with regards sa initiative nila na na-investigate yung black carbon. Tama po ba yun, sir?
Yes po, we're conducting a study, apportioning the filters for black carbon po.
Ayun po. Actually, yung study niyo po is sa WHO na-mention din po siya. Although doon ay qualitative pa lang po, guidance pa lang for black carbon. And I think yung sa DNI is nag-try na po kayo i-quantify yung
Yes.
nag-try po kayo mag-come up ng standards for black carbon. So, I think that's a step in the right direction po. Ayun po, ang ginagawa po nila Engineer Baya is gusto niya makuha ng local data and I think commendable po yun on their part. Although ideally talaga, dapat masunod yung WHO standards. I mean, yun yung goal natin na ma-attain talaga. Yun po.
Okay.
Can I add po, Ma'am Marie?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Yes. Thank you for the question, Ma'am Miles. So, tama po yung nabanggit ni Engineer Vince. So, what we did is a local-based study po. No? So, the WHO is international. Then, so that's why when we found that our study yielded like five units lang ang difference dun sa WHO. So, well, the policy is still undergoing deliberation. Then, so I guess we can see whether the DNR, the secretary, will or if there will be more data positions coming to us to equate the studied output to the WHO standard po. In relation to your inquiry po on the benzene, so actually in our hazardous ambient air quality guideline values, we're also studying to create guideline value for benzene. So benzene, toluene, and xylene are what we call as volatile organic compounds, and they're byproduct of combustion and in some cases product of um, uh, hydrocarbons. No? So isa po yun sa pinag-aaralan po namin gumawa ng guideline value, yung benzene po. Ayan po.
Okay, thank you. And now I see Miles again. Hand
Miles,
again.
go ahead.
Do you remember your last
Yeah,
question?
na-remember ko na.
Okay.
Kasi nung nasa abroad ako, specifically nung nasa US ako, napansin ko yung sa carpooling eh. They have a lane for carpools na mabilis. Kung puno yung car mo, pwedeng yun ang gamitin mo. But if you're alone, may iba ring lane. Kaya iniisip, and it's actually to encourage carpooling.
Good.
And if you use the carpooling lane, when you are alone, you are fined heavily. So I'm thinking, kasi di ba yung usually mga buses, ganon, may mga bus lane, baka there should be a lane for carpools, ganon.
That's a
Na
good idea.
mapapikle yung time ng mga nagka-travel.
Any
Yeah,
comments?
yun lang. Yun yung naalala.
Any comments
Thank
from
you.
our speakers? It's not a question actually, it's a
Isa pa
suggestion.
pala, yung isa pang napansin ko pala, may I add.
Yung sinasabi
Like yung
naman
sa Malaysia, nung I was there, talagang yung mass transport nila hanggang hanggang airport. Parang napaka-convenient doon sa mga nag-to and fro ng different countries. So it will also boost the tourism industry if yung ating mga railways nakakonect sa ating airport. Di ba? Yun lang. So, dalawa bale. Thank you.
Okay. Attorney Catulio, you were saying?
Hindi, yung sinasabi ni ma'am yung tinatawag sa US na high occupancy vehicle lanes. Pero makita mo namang ilang lanes sila, di ba? Parang dito kasi, niisip ko tuloy saan pwedeng ilagay eh. Parang, kasi kung 3 lanes ka lang, pag nilagay mo pa, so parang mahirap. Yeah. Pero tama yon. Pero siguro, we will come to that time na siguro na we could allocate HOV vehicles. Pero nonetheless, mass transportation pa rin talaga ang
Mass transportation, yes.
ating kailangan.
Okay, thank you.
I think
David, do
Marie,
you see any
may gusto lang
questions
akong
from
balikan na
the
questions. Ewan ko lang kung nasagot na itong question ni Sir Francis sa chat na sabi niya, do we have enough data to compare our emissions with the global guidelines values? I think directed to the EMB.
Maybe like to clarify, in terms of what po yung sinasabi niyo pong nabasa ko rin yun eh.
Do we have enough data to compare, sabi, our emissions with the global guideline values?
Would that mean po
Kay
yung
Sir
standard
Joseph
pa natin or
Francis.
yung number of data ng emission from the industries po ba?
Maybe we should hear from Francis. Francis, because you have so many inputs in the chat box.
Yeah, salin na lang ako sa chat box kasi
Talk about it
hayaan
na
ko
lang.
yung magsalita. Pero ano, ang tanong ko actually, kasi ako I agree na dapat meron tayong hindi lang tayo susunod sa mga international guidelines. Pero I think yung international guidelines should be taken with locally generated data. Ang tanong ko, do we have enough? For example, what can you say? Do we have enough air quality monitoring stations? Do you have enough kasi we want to help. We want to help kasi yung hangin unfortunately hindi naman unfortunately, it's just that we all suffer if we have poor air quality, but we all
Yeah.
have a better quality of life if it's clean. So I think it's our collective duty to make sure that air is of
Clean.
good quality. Ang tanong ko lang, sapat na ba yung meron tayo? Kasi I don't want to be lulled into complacency na we have these studies, etc. Pero kulang pala. I mean, I know it's sometimes ignorance is bliss, but in the Philippines where uh, hindi na may sakit ka na nga hindi ka pa nagkokonsulta dito kasi mahal eh. So, I mean, environmental factors can be, something na baka po pwede nating ayusin. So, ang tanong, ang query ko lang, sapat na ba yung inaaral natin? Do we have enough data? Do we have enough instrumentation? Yun lang, engineer.
Okay, gets ko na po yung question niyo, sir.
Thank you,
So,
thank
in terms of the monitoring station, actually, there was a manual way back na nire-relate po yung population. So, a certain number of population should have this number of monitoring stations. So, I think it was yun po yung pinakaunang libro na pinaaral sa akin sa bureau eh. So, I think for every 1 million population, there should be at least 2 monitoring stations. So, taking that into account po, the monitoring stations in the Philippines are, lalo-lalo na in highly urbanized cities, are hindi naman siya kulang, pero pwede pang dagdagan. Yun po yung parang magandang term doon. So, I think yung other data, we have naman po the other data like yung emission data from the industries. So we can analyze the data and compare with the emission standards, which is what we are doing right now po. So, ayun po.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions in the chat box, David, or from the Facebook live stream?
I think wala naman sa chat box and sa Facebook live stream. Pero siguro dagdagan na rin natin, no, connect natin Marie kasi parang hindi natatouch today, no. Yung kasi pinag-uusapan natin energy transition, transport sector, yung current po bang for everyone siguro PUB modernization program of the government. Do you think it touches the solution to the issues that we are facing right now? Transition, uh, better air quality. Do you think sapat na po ba yung PUB modernization na nangyayari ngayon? So yun I think yung question na mainam din na masagot. Sige.
Viability also.
Yeah,
Because kung hindi kaya ng mga drivers, then it's not viable.
Go ahead, Sir Francis.
Kahapon kasama namin may mga kasama kami na taga DOTR. Ang sabi nila, hindi na PUVMP ang pangalan kasi Public Utility Vehicles Modernization Program. Ngayon ano daw siya? Public Transport Modernization Program. Kasi nawala sa focus yung commuters, yung mga gumagamit ng public transport system at na-focus, pinagtalunan kung electric jeep ba, kung Euro 4 jeep ba, etc. I think that's hindi lang siya misnomer eh, pero parang ano talaga, mali yung focus kasi ah anyway, yung usapan kahapon, ang bias pa din nung it was a round table discussion at ang bias ay kailangan sa just transition in transport which will have impacts on air pollution kasi nga doon galing yung malaking air pollution. Ang bias ay yung towards public transport versus private. It's more about mass transport kesa yung personal transport. Pero dapat may non-motorized transport, merong active mobility, intermodal transport. Sabihin, it has to be a combination. Kaya hindi po tama yung sabi ni Valyar eh. Kailangan mag-usap yung DOE, DOTR, DPWH, DOH, DNR, TSUD, kasi pati yung urban development ay kasama. No? So, ang isang nasabi sa transition, when you think of just transition, what can be transitioned right away should be done right away. Yung hindi kaya, yung kailangan pang suportahan, dapat suportahan. But we cannot stay put. We cannot proceed business as usual or even worse ay bumalik, no? Hindi po pwedeng ano eh, hindi po pwede na uh, hindi mag-transition from fossil to RE. Yung mga ganun. Pero kailangan dikit-dikit. Kasi nga hindi automatic eh. Not all electric vehicles run on renewable energy. But there are possibilities. Remember, we have electric vehicles since the 80s. I'm referring to the LRT. The LRT and the MRT. These are electric vehicles. I think, they are qualified to access the Green Energy Option Program, wherein they will just demand that their power comes from clean energy sources. Yun yung isang idea kahapon. Ba't nga hindi? Bakit nga hindi? Just imagine, pag ginawa natin yon, you have mass transit being serviced by renewable energy. Mas mababa pa yung cost kasi mas mura talaga ang renewable energy kesa sa coal or natural gas. No? But these are conversations happening right now. So I think it's nice that we're discussing it.
Okay, yes. It's important. These conversations are really important to our daily life and our health and
Indeed.
wellness. Yeah.
Sorry, may I?
Yes,
Go
sure.
ahead, go ahead.
Yeah. On the face of it, maganda yung modernization program because of they will shift, no, to cleaner energy. I think the opposition is muddled by the fact that yung shift to cleaner energy sinasama mo sa consolidation into cooperatives. Because yung cooperative social concern yon, ano? And I've heard the opposition of operators and owners na why are they forcing us to join cooperatives? We've always been single proprietorship and it has worked. Pero kung cooperative, meron pa akong fee, meron pa akong ganyan-ganyan. So, these are two different issues eh. Hiwalay na yung clean energy, cleaner system from the political or social factor or issue of consolidation into cooperatives. Ihiwalay yung discussion na yon. Anyway, that's just my comment. Thank you.
That's a valid comment, I think. Yeah. But
Maraming
talaga,
different aspects of talking about the
yeah, the
transitioning to a
factors that
cleaner energy.
weigh on these discussions are so many.
I think there's
So,
a question from Miss Tessa, directed to Dr. Raymond on the chat box. How do other countries in Asia address these challenges related to transition to electric vehicles? Ayun. Paano ba yung mga neighbor countries natin na address tong transition issue na?
Um, well, well, let's not let's try to look na lang po yung compare na lang with other Southeast Asian regions, no? Um, Other countries po like Malaysia, Thailand, and Vietnam are even Indonesia are very aggressive when it comes to electrification already. So Thailand, for example, meron po silang, I think may new report sila nilabas na 30 for 30 na ang target nila is parang yung ambitious target nila is 30% of yung mga vehicles na mabibili by 2030 will be electric. Sa Malaysia naman po, they are already exploring yung tawag nila yung sa energy efficient vehicles nila. So they have this strong automotive industry, yung state-owned industry nila, no. I don't recall the name, but they're already transitioning to that one. Pinaprepare na nila yung industry nila. For Vietnam, they have VinFast already. So it's already a local manufacturer na rin ng electric vehicles. So relative to these for Indonesia as well, yung nabanggit kanina may questions about incentives and subsidies. So they are exploring providing consumer subsidies for electric two-wheelers. So bibigyan nila ng subsidy yung gustong bumili to address some of those initial investment costs, yung capital nga nila. So yun na lang, relative na lang to the Southeast Asian countries. Kumbaga, they're more aggressive already when it comes to rolling out yung electrification targets. Sa atin, initially yun, nilabas natin yung EVIDA 5% yung target. So ngayon medyo nire-recalibrate nila to something to 10% by 2040 yata yun or 2050. So, kumbaga we have to, kumbaga birth pain siguro, no? Parang since it's a new technology that we're trying to promote in the country. So it will take some time, but if we want to see yung possibilities as well, we can also look at our Southeast Asian neighbors as well, kung paano rin nila naging approach. And ito na rin yung nagiging consideration when it comes dun sa industry. Kasi kumbaga yung mga neighboring countries natin are already positioning to make themselves, ito yung kumbaga sa kanila manggagaling yung market na to, yung magpo-produce at mag-a-address ng market. Lalong-lalo na sa atin sa Philippines, mataas yung market for motorcycles as well. So kumbaga, they're already positioning themselves in terms of that aspect as well.
Okay. That's it. Thank you. Alam mo, nakakatuwa because what's going on in the chat box is also very interesting. But I
There's a
can't read
different
them all.
discussion there
I
related
can't
to
read
what's
them
being
though. So
discussed.
I I'd appreciate a printout of the chat box discussions here. So we have just a little bit of time left. So final questions and comments.
Feedback.
Yeah. Anyone? Concerns? Sino? Wala
Kulang
na.
ang oras. I think maganda lang yung concern niya. Nabasahin ko lang yung kay Ma'am Vicky, no, related to the modernization na sabi nga niya. Having cooperative transport system prevents selfish personal operating system which are not usually obeying rules on safety service and just compensation of drivers. I think okay din yung issue na yan, no, na talagang kaya kino-cooperativize pero at the same time may problema din kasi sabi nga sa cooperative dapat daw ay voluntary. Well, anyway, I hope that
I also
it should be voluntary and not forced
yeah.
sa cooperative.
At saka alam mo, David, there was also a problem sa cooperatives.
One of the biggest problem that before we close, I would like to share is I have a neighbor that is a owner of I think 6 jeepneys, and he was saying that the original price supposed to be of the Egypt was just 2 million. Then all of a sudden, when they go to purchase it, pagpasok dun sa agency, it became 3+ million na. So, you know, there's something
Corruption.
going on that should be resolved along the way.
Oh my.
Pag corruption, laki-laking
Ay
problema natin sa
naku, 'pag
corruption.
lumabas na 'yan, 'pag pumasok na 'yan.
Lahat pala may topic tayo, corruption
And
and the
environment.
environment. I think magandang
Yes.
topic yun.
Oh, actually, corruption affects the environment, really. Uh,
Baka mahaba-haba yung part 1 and part 2.
di
Anyway,
tayo
any other
matatapos
questions? Yun?
di tayo matatapos dyan. Pero I was going to say about cooperatives. My brother si Ding, yung one of the founders of Kamayan, he worked to have uh, genuine cooperatives. Kasi ang problema dati, yung mga cooperatives, kunwari lang cooperative. Pero they were really taking advantage of their members and dictatorial. Alam mo yun? So he was telling me about it na many or most of the cooperatives can't be called cooperatives. So he had training programs for cooperative members so that they would assert their rights and all that. Pero what I'm saying is cooperatives are not necessarily good, you know. So isang malaking problema din 'yan. And kaya
Nagko-co-op
sa
kasi minsan yung word, nagko-co-op daw.
problem,
Anyway,
lahat
si
naman
Ma'am Tessa
problema.
yata may
Yeah,
question.
Tessa has a problem
Question.
question.
No, just to answer nang wala na tayong oras, by February, we have the National Summit again, Philippine Environment Summit. We can have a breakout session on electric vehicles or on this transport session. Yun lang.
Good idea.
Oh, yeah. madaming good topics for breakout
Yeah,
sessions.
and then we give the resolutions to our government agencies that they can act on. Then we can
Right.
follow up. So I think that would be a good venue.
Yeah,
Avenue.
so we're already preparing for the next Philippine Environment Summit because it takes a long time to prepare for that.
Malapit na yan.
Yes,
February.
yung ano, doon na lang siguro gawin din yung corruption and the environment. Magandang pag-usapan yan doon.
Oh, baka
Hindi,
buti na 3 araw yun. Breakout session.
hindi yung summit, good news eh. Bad news ang corruption.
Oo, exactly. Good news kasi yan summit eh. Kasi yung bad news, naririnig natin monthly.
Kamayan.
Okay, so at least once every 2 years we have good news. Diba?
Okay.
So, are we done? I mean, no more
I think
questions?
there's no more questions. So, go ahead, Marie.
So, no, it's your turn, I think.
Ako, akala ko ikaw yung mag-close. Anyway, thank you everyone for those, eye-opening questions and the answers from our reactors and guests. It's been a very good discussion.
You're
Also,
supposed to
before
introduce
we,
our
yeah,
closing.
mayroon pang closing and invitation. Nagbabasa ako dito sa bago mag-closing remarks. We have to invite everyone to visit the AAB website, Ako Ang
Ako
Bukas
ang bukas
website on
website.
Facebook. And also, for those who want to join Green Convergence, you can access it on our website, the Green Convergence, and on our Facebook page. And also, we would like to announce everyone the resolutions of our environmental summit and SONA was already received by the Office of the President and was also cascaded to the DNR National Office and its regional and local offices.
And
Hopefully,
we
they
just
would
have
act
to
on
wait.
it.
We have to wait for results.
Hopefully, they would act on it and it would not just sit on their tables. And now, to deliver a closing remarks for the 34th anniversary of Kamayan Forum, he is from the partnership. He is the partnership and advocacy advisor of the Institute for Climate and Sustainable Cities, or ICSC. Let's welcome Francis Joseph de la Cruz.
Well, thank you po. Again, thank you to Green Convergence for allowing us to be part of your 34th anniversary at itong Kamayan ng Marso. Mahirap mag-closing remarks kasi parang marami tayong mas nabuksan na mga topics. And hopefully we can find time and space so that we can we can talk about those kasi I think the public transport modernization program, because it refers to the how we can improve our transportation system, which is a big contributor to air pollution. I mean, there's so many knock-on effects to that. Hindi lang air pollution, pati nga daw ano yung air pollution is closely related to the emissions ng greenhouse gases. Tapos related siya sa overall well-being and health. So it's really an important topic. Hindi nga lang po natin hindi natin masyadong naiisip yung mga topics na yan because we're so loaded with concerns. How do I get from my home to my office? How do I get from my office to market or to church safely and in quality, with a quality na nararapat. No? So, malaking-malaking issue at malaking-malaki po ang pasasalamat ko to our guests, kay Vince, kay Dr. uh, ano nga, ng, ng Clean Air Asia. Sorry, nalimutan ko po yung apelido nyo. Ah, pero kay Attorney Ketulio, kay Engineer Vallar, I think this afternoon has been very illuminating, very enlightening, and very challenging kasi obviously hindi natin kayang isolve ang problema ng mundo with the time that we had, but I think the connections were made and I hope that we can, keep on talking about this because, at the end of the day, whether our air is good or bad, tayo naman ang tayo ang either makikinabang or magdurusa. So again, maraming salamat po at magandang hapon po sa ating lahat.
Thank you, Francis. Maraming
Thank you,
salamat.
thank you,
It
thank you.
has always been a pleasure working with you. This is not going to be our last collaboration. And I would like to announce that, this is open to all our members. The
Those who
Green
want to
Convergence
co-present.
members, organizations, if you have an issue that you want to discuss, you want to promote, a campaign that you want to push, please let us know. That is one of your privileges as a member of Green Convergence to get airtime on Kamayan para sa Kalikasan Forum. Okay? So, David,
Thank you everyone for joining our Kamayan Forum today and happy anniversary, Kamayan Forum.
yay!
I am happy that from an attendee, I was able to, moderate and now a board of director of Green Convergence. And to close, siguro I am hoping that the government would be, more coordinating with each other. Rather, especially to avoid wrong notions like yung kay MMDA coordinator na ang sabi niya parang he's favoring the private vehicles no doon sa kanyang speech na bakit lalagyan ng bike lane yung EDSA because matatakpan daw yung mga car dealerships sa EDSA. So I think there should be more proper coordination with government agencies in promoting mass transportation and active mobility. I have talked with Ira Cruz of Al Mobility this week and we should push for really more active mobility and mass transportation. We can do it kasi kung maganda yung ating mass transportation, I think even the rich people would like to ride them. May ang problema kasi parang we're so focused on, private cars and, private vehicles, even our expressways. And sabi ko nga doon sa chat kanina, sana mandatory din na may sidewalk. Kasi yun yung number one ko palaging pinoproblema pag naglalakad kami Marie ng mga anak ko. Sabi ko, ba't itong kalsada dito walang sidewalk? O kaya pag may sidewalk, para namang nag exercise ka, taas, baba, taas, baba. Tapos
Yeah.
minsan sa mga MRTs, sana ma-promote din, matulungan tayo ng mga kasama natin sa Congress to really promote the PWD and senior citizen access. Sabi ni Sir Francis kanina yata, yung iba parang pang athlete pa yung dadaanan ng mga PWD natin. So yun, we can all work together in this and I hope na at least the Kamayan Forum would have an additional input to that. So maraming salamat po and thank you everyone.
David, that reminds me of something that Ding Reyes used to emphasize in our Kamayan sessions, that the Kamayan, para sa Kalikasan, was not named for the restaurant. Although, bagay na rin, di ba? Kasi it's the sponsor. But what it really symbolizes is putting our hands together to come up with solutions that will benefit everyone. And that we should not be working against each other, but together, uh, uh, with uh, hands together, for our good, for the good of all, the present generation and the future generation. So that's Kamayan for you,
Sabi nga
on
Marie,
our.
dagdag ko lang team, 'di ba? Together everyone achieves more. Team,
That's
kaya 'yun ang
right.
kamayan.
And team works.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Congratulations to Green Convergence for successfully steering uh, Kamayan to its 34th anniversary. And congratulations to me for growing old here. uh, this makes me so happy that it's already 34 years old. And um, the next Kamayan will be on April 19, a few days before Earth Day. So I hope everyone will show love for Mother Earth by attending our Kamayan more frequently. Make it a habit, third Friday. Before we didn't have to issue reminders or invitations. It was a habit with people. They knew third Friday Kamayan yan. So they would troop to Kamayan EDSA and break bread together and plan together and work together. So that's what we want to do. That's what we want to continue to do. Thank you very much for being with us, our guests, our participants, our everyone. Thank you. See you next month.
Don't forget everyone, next week March 23 is also Earth Hour. So I hope everyone would participate and save energy for the planet. Although masyadong maliit 'yung isang oras. Maraming maraming salamat and have a
Salamat.
great weekend everyone. Thank you for attending
Yes.
today. Thank
Thank
you to
you.
all our
Thank
speakers
you.
and reactors.
Thank you.
God
Thank you
bless
po.
everyone.
God
God
bless.
Bye.
bless.
Thank you.
Bye
Thank you po.
bye.
Thanks everyone.